Today we'll have Sara K's land and sea trip that's coming up on this episode 473 of WDW Prep to go. Hello and welcome to WDW Prep to Go. We talk strategy and ideas and have lots and lots of trip reports for people planning their Disney World trips. I am your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPrepSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 473. Today is another trip report. This time it's with Sara K, who just did a land and sea trip. But also during the land part of her trip, which was at Disney World, she got Premier Pass for 3 of the 4 parks. So if you're interested in hearing about how that went, I'll have my chats with her in just a moment. As always, a reminder to follow on social media. And a reminder that we have a podcast finder tool on the website. So when at the end of the episode, when I say click on podcast at the top, you can click on podcast at the top, and then it has the episodes sorted by type. So it has it sorted by month of travel, by resort, by, like, for instance, this one is a cruise, so it'll be labeled as DCL. So if you find yourself wondering, what is it like to stay at this resort, or what is it like to travel in August or whatever, you can go back and listen to trip reports that apply to your particular situation. That is why we have that tool. I don't think I have anything else for you other than if you want to be a trip report guest, the only way to do that is using the SpeakPipe information in the show notes of every episode. Please leave a voicemail, and if it works out with our schedule, somebody on my team will reach out to you and get you scheduled just like we did with Sara. Without any further ado, here are my chats with Sara. Welcome to the podcast, Sara.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're talking on Saturday, July 5th, and you told me right before I hit record that you are doing a land and sea trip out of Florida.
Yes, we are going to board the Disney Treasure and go on a Western Caribbean itinerary and then spend a few days in Walt Disney World. And we're also going to go for a day to Legoland as part of this adventure.
Okay. So it's a whole Central Florida kind of thing.
It's a whole Central Florida. Yeah, we're doing it all.
Okay. Is any part of this new to you? DCL, Disney World, or Legoland?
So the Legoland is new to us, so that's a first time thing we're doing. We've never been on the Treasure. We've sailed a couple of times on the cruise lines.
Okay. So the Treasure is new.
Yes.
Okay. So you kind of know what to expect a little bit, but the ship has its own unique things. Who's going on this trip?
So my husband, Michael, and my 8, soon to be 9-year-old son, he actually will celebrate his birthday while we're on this trip. And Legoland is part of that surprise for him.
Okay. That is fun. So is this a birthday trip, or is he just coincidentally turning 9 during the trip?
It's just coincidentally he happens to turn 9 when we're there. We try to take a trip in July, and it just, because of when his birthday falls, we often are on vacation when that happens.
Yep. If you have a vacation plan in July, and he was born in July, it's bound to happen. Okay. So what are your trip dates?
So we are going to fly out on July 11th, and we're going to stay and do the cruise. It's a 7-night cruise, and then we will fly home on the 24th of July.
Okay. So almost 2 weeks.
Almost, just shy of a day or so.
Yes. But that is a nice long trip. You've been to Florida in July?
We have. Last year we came to Walt Disney World to do a land and sea adventure as well. So we went on the Fantasy last year, and we spent 4th of July at Epcot, which was bananas. It was a lot of fun, but we stayed at the beach club, and the line to ride the Skyliner extended like to where you walk into the lobby after we left the fireworks, and we were like, holy smokes, that's a long line.
The line to the Skyliner waits to the lobby of the beach club?
Like, you know how you go that walkway that walks up into the building? Yeah, it went all the way back that far. I mean, it was the longest line I've ever seen at Disney World, or probably anywhere.
That is crazy. Luckily, you just had to walk.
Yes.
So that made it a little bit easier. Okay.
So we know about the heat and the rain and all the things.
You sure do. You know what you're getting yourself into. All right. So let's start talking through it. So
July 11th is Friday, so are you flying to Florida that day?
We are. We're taking a really early morning flight to Florida that day. And when we arrive, we're going to spend one night at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And just, we've never stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge. So we'll take private transport there and just enjoy the resort that day because we're going to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It will be an early night. So hopefully we'll get to swim and all those things before we board the cruise the next day.
Okay, so probably a good resort to pick if you just wanna hang out at the resort, right?
Yes, and we got a Savannah View room. My son loves animals, big animal enthusiast, along with a Disney enthusiast. So we are pretty excited for that.
Okay. So you head to Animal Kingdom Lodge, private transport, hang out at the resort, head to bed, and then the next day you head to the port.
Yes. So on the 12th, we will take Disney transportation to the port. That's a little bit strategic because we haven't cruised a lot, so we're kind of low in the rankings of, getting on a ship, but if you take the Disney transportation, you tend to get on quicker. We want to get on so that we can try to change our dining reservation for the rotation to the early dining time. We have the late one and we prefer the early one, so we're going to see if we have any luck with that.
Okay. That is pretty clever. I think there's pros and cons of DCL transportation. This is one of the pros. Y-
Exactly.
You can get there earlier. And remind me, so they pick you up at your hotel and they transport your bags for you.
Yeah, so they usually or the last times we've done it, they will pick your baggage up from your room around 7 o'clock in the morning. So you just get it ready, you set it inside your room, put with all your luggage tags on, and they come and pick it up. And the next time you see it is when it's sitting outside your stateroom door on the cruise, which is also another benefit of not having to. For 2 weeks, we are going to have 5 suitcases full of stuff. So we're excited to not have to deal with that for a little bit.
Yeah, that is definitely a pro, having them handle your luggage as well. Okay, so what other priorities do you have on this embarkation day? What plans do you think you're going to have?
So our plan is as soon as we board to send my husband to Tritonson's Lounge, which is where we heard you do the dining rotation changes if you are going to try. So immediately he's going that way. And then my son and I are going to head up to the pool deck to get a table so we can get some food. And then he wants to ride the Aqua Mouse. So we want to be up there as soon as they open that so he can ride it a few times before that pool deck gets crazy busy on that embarkation day.
Mhm.
That's the goal anyways. So
And so that,
they're wearing their swim attire on the ship. I mean, we're ready to roll.
yeah, I was going to say you either have to pack it or you have to wear it. So
Yes.
that takes a little tiny bit of planning, but okay. So food, okay, change your dining, go to the pool deck for food and aquamouse.
Yes. Those are the priorities and then the rest just kind of, just taken in the ship and excited just to see everything it has to offer.
Are you guys show people?
Yes, we will go to all the shows. We do love the shows.
All right. And then are we ready for the next day, Sunday?
Yes. Oh, I was gonna mention, I know a lot of kids and families that I've listened to you on your podcast and
Hmm.
others, their kids really love the kids club. And
Hmm.
my son is just one of those kids that is a little more hesitant to that, probably because he's an only child as well. And so we will probably explore the kids clubs a little bit. And if he were interested in spending some time there on his own, we would certainly allow that. But he has not to this date wanted to do that. So he's with us. We're doing all the things as a family. And so we'll kind of see how that is. So we have never really experienced the kids clubs other than in the kind of open house time frame.
Okay. I am glad you mentioned that. Let's talk about what you're doing Sunday, July 13th.
So that is a sea day as well. And our priority on that day is the Incredicourse. So I think that's where they make that giant inflatable that's kind of Incredibles themed, and you can
Hmm.
go and run that obstacle course. And so that's something he really wants to do. The other thing that he wanted to do when we went on a cruise last time that we just didn't have time for was he wants to watch a movie at night on Funnel Vision, which is the big TV on the pool deck. So hopefully they'll have a movie he wants to watch. So we're going to do that. And then really we're just going to relax and just explore the ship some more. And we don't have any special dining because we're just excited to do the rotational dining on the treasure.
Lots to take in just with that.
Exactly.
Okay, Monday, July 14th.
So this day we are in Cozumel, Mexico. We've never been on a Western itinerary. We've never been to Mexico. So this will be a first time in Mexico. We did book a port excursion through Disney. We've only ever done excursions through Disney. We're not confident enough in our cruising yet to kind of go outside of them. And so we did a beach inclusive experience in the morning. So we're excited to go and enjoy a little bit of Cozumel and go to the beach. My family loves the ocean and snorkeling and all those things. So we'll play in the beach in the morning, and then the afternoon, we'll probably try to, as other people are out on excursions, hop back on, eat some food, and probably do some more aqua mouse or stuff like that.
And that beach excursion, does that includes like transportation from the ship to the beach? Is it like at a resort?
I think so. It's a newer one, is what I read about it. It's called the Kuza Beach VIP experience. And so it transports you there and sets you up with chairs and umbrellas and the whole bit. I'm not exactly sure if it's on a resort or if it's just some sort of area. And then, yeah, you stay there. They have food and drinks and just enjoy the ocean like a beach day. And then they transport you back to the ship.
I just Googled it to see what it looks like. It says it is an exclusive and luxurious beach day with access to a private section of the beach, dedicated service, and premium amenities, including loungers, appetizers. So that's what it
It
says.
sounded really appealing. I hope it lives up to that.
Yeah. As someone who lives in Mexico now, I am fascinated by the private section of the beach because they're all public here. So I wonder how that
Okay.
works.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Okay. So back to the boat in the afternoon. And then any specific plans after that?
Just exploring the ship some more, probably just chilling and relaxing a little bit. Just kind of, it's so easy on these cruises to just like in the parks to just
Mhm.
want to go 18 hours a day because there's so much fun stuff to do. But I'm really trying to dial that back a little bit and actually relax. So maybe we did get a deluxe family ocean view stateroom with a veranda. So probably just taking some time to relax this day as well after we come back because I'm sure we'll be tired.
A family with I keep forgetting to ask about the stateroom, and which is important.
Right.
So the ocean view family with veranda. So it's the bigger one with with the balcony. That's what it is.
Yes. Yep. It's just the bigger one with the balcony. Yep. I think it, uh, it can either sleep four or five. We just like the extra elbow room. So
Yeah, we did that the last cruise and I loved it. And the shower, I like the shower better. It's a round space. The other showers feel like even if you're just an average height person, it feels like you're going to hit your head, but these feel bigger.
okay, that's good to know. My husband is taller, so he appreciates a lot of headspace.
Yeah, I think he'll like this better. Your previous cruises, were they in this type of room or a different type of room?
We've done this type of room every time we've cruised because we really want that veranda. We like to sit out and just stare at the ocean. It's so pretty. When you live in the landlocked part of America, if you like the water, you just want to be on it as much as you can.
Yeah. Okay. And have your previous cruises been this length or shorter?
We have done one other 7 day. We've done a 3 day, and then in February we did a 5 night, I should say, not day, 5 night one as well. So
3, 5, and 7 is a nice sample of lengths. Do you have thoughts on the lengths? Like, is 3 too short? Like, you wouldn't do that again, or did you like that?
I thought 3 was too short for the amount of effort it takes to get on and get all your
Mhm.
stuff. I was like, "Oh my gosh, now we gotta get right back off." It was too quick. That was just my husband and I. We just did the 3 night
Mhm.
one. The 5 night one was good, but my son came back saying, "Why do we have to get off so soon? We should only ever
Mm.
do a 7 night." And then he heard about the 13 night repositioning cruises. He said that's the one he wanted to go on.
Oh, he's a man of fine taste.
Yes, yes, he is.
Yes. Those do seem interesting.
Right?
So that would be fun in its own way. Okay. So Tuesday, July 15th.
Okay, so this day the port is Georgetown, Grand Cayman. We've never been here either. So we did get an excursion booked through Disney again. From what I understand, this is a tender port as well, so that'll be a new experience. And we are doing the Cayman Crystal Caves tour on this day. So no beach day, but they do pick you up, transport you to the Crystal Caves for a tour, and then bring you back to the boat as well. And so that's kind of happens like right in the middle of our day. So we'll have a little bit of time before the excursion, and then it'll be closer to kind of that late afternoon, early evening before we're back. So it'll probably take up the bulk of our day.
All right. And then we're on Wednesday, July 16th.
Yeah, so the 16th, we are at another port, so we're at Falmouth, Jamaica. Never been here either, and so we decided to do another kind of we did a resort day pass. I think it's at Royalton Resort there in the area. So they pick you up on the bus, and I think it's probably like a 45-minute drive to this resort, and then you spend a good chunk of the day there. What I'm reading online is it's got access to the beach, it's got a pool, of course, food and restaurants, and then it has its own water park as part of this resort. So we're going to do all the water activities again.
Okay.
And that
A
takes
lot
up
of
a good part of the day as well.
several port days in a row here.
Yes, I was like, we're gonna be exhausted doing all the things, but it's good. It's good we're an adventurous family, so we like to do all the things.
Okay. Thursday, July 17th.
Okay, so that's a C day. And so we don't have any specific plans this day, although we love shows and movies. So we have not seen the new Lilo and Stitch live action. And so my thought was they'll likely be playing that on the Treasure. And that might be a good day for us to go to the movie on the ship. So we like to do that. So that's an activity, probably do more aqua mousing and credit coursing, exploring the ship, what other things we can find to do.
Okay. Friday, July 18th.
So this day is the Castaway Cay Day, and we are fans of Castaway Cay. We love it. Such a great place to go. Both my husband and son have actually gone parasailing there before. I have never went. This time they talked me into going, so we're going to all three go parasailing in the morning on Castaway, and then we're also going to do the Stingray adventure where you get to pet the stingrays in the ocean there, and then just enjoy another family beach day. We have actually been to Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point as well. We did that in February on a bigger family trip, and they're very different islands, and I love them both for different reasons. I think they're both fantastic.
Yes. Pros and cons.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. The water I think at Lookout Key is so beautiful. I mean, at
Mhm.
Castaway, it's beautiful too, but it's just different. But man, it's pretty there.
Yes, it is very pretty. Okay. Saturday, July 19th.
Okay, so this is our disembarkation day. So we are going to grab private transportation at 8:30, and we're going to go to the Boardwalk Inn for the rest of our vacation. So they'll take us to the Boardwalk Inn, and after being on a cruise, oh,
Is it DCL private transportation or a different company?
different company.
Okay.
So my only issue with the DCL transportation is I love to take it there, but I do not love to take it back because they do not leave until 9 o'clock in the morning. So if you get off and you are, get on the bus, which will let you sit there, you could sit there for a couple of hours if you're not paying attention, which we made that mistake before. And so you're sitting on that bus for an hour and a half, and then you still got the drive back to Orlando, and that was a long time. And so we just decided it might be faster because we're ready to keep vacationing. We don't want to sit on a bus. So,
And I think it would be shared with other resorts, right?
yes,
So it would
usually
take
one or
longer.
two, I think. So it
Okay.
takes longer.
Okay. So you're doing so pretty clever strategically. DCL transport on the way there to get that earlier boarding time, but then you get the speedier return time with your private transport.
Yes.
And
Yep.
you're
So
going to the boardwalk.
go into the Boardwalk Inn, hopefully get there within an hour and get checked in. I'm assuming our room probably won't be ready. We did spring for a one bedroom villa because after being on cruise 7 days, we need a washer and a dryer.
Oh, clever. Yep.
Yeah, so I have done a little bit of laundry on a cruise ship before, which is fine, but I'm the laundry person. And I've also done it at different Disney resorts over the last couple of years. I don't love traipsing all around doing my laundry. It's
Hmm?
not super fun. So I thought this time I'm just going to get a room with it in there. And so that
Mhm.
was the reason for that.
And how did you book it? Are you DVC owners? Did you rent points? Did you book it through Disney?
We have a travel advisor. And so we actually went through her and she helped us kind of pick that out. I'd been watching for this particular week, they'd been putting out a lot of deals
Mm.
when we decided to book kind of towards that end of March is when we decided to do this. And this looked like a good week. And so we actually looked at Saratoga Springs, we looked at Wilderness Lodges Villas, but I actually love the boardwalk and I love the boardwalk inn. I've only ever stayed there one night a few years ago, but I just love it in there. And so I thought this will be the time I spring for it.
Okay. And so what else are you hoping to do on this day?
So we hope to get settled there. I did go ahead and I made a advanced dining reservation for Beaches and Cream Soda Shop at Beach Club because when we were there last summer, we could never get a reservation for it. It was so busy. I got one this time, so I thought we could probably get there. Our room probably won't be ready, so we can just kind of wander around the resort, wander around the boardwalk, then walk over there since it's so close and have Beaches and Cream for lunch, and then come back and do the pool because I know my son will love the slide that's with the boardwalk pool and of course arcades and all that kind of stuff. So we'll just kind of take in the resort amenities.
Okay.
We are going to have a little bit of groceries delivered from Publix, mostly just water, snacks, and Dr. Pepper. Because if you're a Dr. Pepper lover, you know that you can't find that at Disney, except Satuli Canteen in Epcot, or excuse me, at Animal Kingdom has Pib Extra. And there's a couple other spots, but if you're the Dr. Pepper fan, you kind of start jonesing for it. So we'll have some of that delivered. The villa has a great looking kitchen, but I have zero desire to cook. Honestly, I don't want to do that.
You're there for the laundry.
Exactly.
You're already doing laundry. Are you supposed to cook too?
Exactly. I'm like, why? I just have to do all that at home. So we'll just get some snacks and water and stuff, which we've done that before and it's been super easy. They just bring it to the bell service and you can pick it up. We do have an advanced dining reservation at the Flying Fish, which we've never been to either that evening as well. So I'm a planner.
Taking advantage of all the dining options right there.
Yes, I like to know what to expect. And my kiddo is a bit of a selective eater. And
Mhm.
so I sort of need to have a plan because my husband doesn't love having to run around to get him something else to eat that he's willing to eat. So we kind of need to know what we're doing.
And you have to look at the menus ahead of time so that you know.
Yes, very much so. I mean, he told me last when we were there in February, we were in Magic Kingdom and we'd went to the royal table and my son did not like anything at the Cinderella's royal table. So my husband had to run out really quick and try to like get a bag of chips for him and he got caught in the parade and he said it was a nightmare. So he's like, let's have a better plan this time. So we have a better plan.
Uh-huh. Okay. And then we're on Sunday, July 20th.
So, Sunday, July 20th, this is the day we're surprising our son with the trip to Legoland. So, Legoland is about 45 minutes to an hour. I think it's south of Orlando. And because I don't want to drive or rent a car or deal with all that, we did book private transportation to take us there. And my son is still in a booster seat. So, just like getting an Uber is a little
Mhm.
bit more tricky because he needs to be in a seat. So,
He's close to not being in one.
he's a little guy, and
Mhm.
so I told him afraid he'll be in a booster seat till he's 13 at the rate he's going.
And maybe I'll have a growth spurt soon.
He might. So, he's close, but we'll do private transport, and so they're gonna pick us up at 8:30 from Boardwalk and drive us down to Legoland, and then we'll spend the day doing all the Legoland things. I've done some research on Legoland. We've never been there before, and so just kind of trying to figure out it's, not as expansive as the information on coming to Disney. So that's a little when you're used to having all that information available, I feel a little blind. I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, this is the way it was 20 years ago where you just sort of showed up, I guess, and took it in." So
I sort of feel like I wish every destination in the whole world had information the way that Disney World does.
I would
And
love that as a planner. I think that's
everything, everything, Grand Canyon, Legoland, any country, but it just doesn't quite exist in the same way.
exactly. I would love that too.
It used to be my goal. So this is total side note. It used to be my goal, Grand Canyon
Mhm.
Prep School, like all these
Oh,
different because
yeah.
I was like, I love the structure. People don't look for it the way they do for Disney World. And so it's a hard business.
That I can see that. I would
Yeah.
love it, but
It would
there'd be
just be it would
definitely
just
a
be us,
niche.
Sarah. Just be us looking for.
Exactly.
And so this is a surprise for your son. So is he a Lego guy?
He's a total Lego person, and he's kind of getting to the age that I read where you sort of start to outgrow the Legoland
Mhm.
stuff. So I thought if we don't do it this year, it suddenly could change with his growing up. So I said we
Yeah.
better do it. And he actually asked about it. He had a friend who went and he said, "Did you know there's a Legoland?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I did." So I think it's going to work out well.
Okay. I agree with you. Once he outgrows his car seat, he'll be too big for Legoland.
Exactly.
So, okay, that makes sense you're fitting it in this time. And what day is his birthday? Is it this day or a different one?
It's actually the next day. The 21st is his actual birthday.
Okay. All right. Got it. So, what are your plans on the 21st?
So on the 21st, we are going to get up and go to Epcot that day. And so our one of our son's favorite rides is Soarin', and he loves Remy too, but he loves Soarin'. So really that's our push is to get to Epcot early because it's going to be hot and hopefully ride Soarin'. I think I didn't mention this yet, but this is the first time we're going to go all out and buy Premier Pass.
Oh, you are?
We are, and here's the reason why. It's not we have used obviously multi-pass and single pass. We've used standby skipper and all of that is great and works well. The challenge is when it's super hot and you have to kind of traipse back and forth across the park sometimes. It just really wears you down and to kind of maximize him. My husband and I will just suck it up and do it, but with him it's a little bit different. So we decided so we could walk the park and do the rides in the order that we wanted to with maximum flexibility. We were going to go for it. So this is the other thing is on the morning that we board the cruise ship, I've got to get on and purchase the Premier Pass for the 3 Disney parks we'll go to.
Yeah, and I was also gonna say that during your trip is when some new things are changing, specifically at Epcot, with Test Track coming back and
Yes.
all that. I guess this is the day before that, but that adds a layer of, confusion maybe. But if you so should I assume you're using Premier Pass every park day?
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
we're going to do 3 parks. We are not going to Hollywood Studios this time. So we're going to buy it for every Disney park day.
We've had some trip reports that include Premier Pass, and I think when it was first announced, there was a lot of grumbling about, oh no, oh no. But I'm fascinated with when it does make sense. And we've
Right.
had multiple instances of when it makes sense. And in your case, it's I don't want to traipse around. It's hot. This lets me go without, backtracking.
Exactly.
So that's pretty clever as well. So Soren's a priority
Soren's a
and
priority
Remy's is a priority, I think you
and
said.
Remy's is a priority, and so we're gonna rope drop it, and we're gonna get over to Soren right away because we also have a character dining at the Garden Grill with Chip and Dale. So I
Breakfast?
breakfast, yes. So like a 9:40 breakfast. So we hope to be able to do like Soarin' maybe a couple of times, one without the Premier Pass and one with it. Maybe do Figment, do a couple of things over in that area, and then do kind of a later breakfast at Garden Grill. So we've
Mhm.
never been in the Garden Grill or had any meal there. I make my family do the character dining because I love them. So we're gonna do that. So we're excited. I should say I'm excited to do the character dining.
Okay.
And
And then what?
then just gonna kind of go through the park in a, kind of a systematic way because we have the Premier Pass. I One thing I will mention, my son is gonna almost be 9, but because he is a smaller kid, he can still ride in the double Disney stroller. And the first time we came to Disney 2 years ago, we thought, "Well, he's old enough not to be in a stroller," and that was a terrible mistake. It kind of in the end, we ended up getting a stroller that trip as well because it's just so much walking and it's hot. So we will have a stroller for him just to make all of our lives more pleasant during the day as well. So I know some people are like, "Oh my gosh, I can't put my 8 or 9-year-old in a stroller." And I tell them, "Oh, yes, you can if they'll fit, and you'll like it too, and they'll be happier as well."
And the Disney double strollers are perfect because they're big and they're not cushiony like the ones that you have at home, but kids your age don't usually need to take a nap or anything.
Exactly.
And also you don't need it outside the park.
Exactly. I think it's perfect because he really just needs it to just get off of his feet, and he doesn't need it anywhere else. Like you said, he's too at home, he's not doing 25,000 steps a day usually, and he doesn't need it, so yeah.
And if it's 25,000 steps for you, it's more for him.
Exactly.
And it's just a lot of walking.
It is a lot of walking. So even though we have Premier Pass and we can do a little less walking, it's still so stinking hot that we're just taking advantage of every tool we can to have a great time.
Yes, some clever tactics to get around that. Anything else planned on this Monday?
So I do think we have never done this before, really, where we've taken a midday break, but we probably will take a midday break because we did schedule Space 220 for his birthday dinner. We have been to Space 220 one other time, and the, we aren't like the food is fine, but the experience, he loves space and Space 220. And so I thought we would go for that again. That's something he would like as well. And so we'll do that, and then we will not stay to watch the fireworks. We are not necessarily fireworks people. I don't mind them in the background, but I'm not gonna hunt a spot out for them, so
And is your Space 220 the restaurant or the lounge?
the restaurant.
Okay. All right. And all right, no pressure to stay for fireworks. You might hear 'em from your hotel though.
Exactly.
Okay,
So
Tuesday, July 22nd.
so this is our Magic Kingdom day. And so we will probably just because of the hot Florida weather and the rain and all that, we try to get out early. And so we'll go to Magic Kingdom, have Premier Pass. We have a couple of advanced dining reservations booked just so we have a plan. And so I thought again this time we would eat a little bit of a later lunch at Tony's Town Square so we could walk out of the park after we were done and go take a break. And then we'll come back after a little bit of a break. Now, I believe this is the day, or maybe it was 2 days before that the nighttime parade is premiering. Maybe it's the 20th that it premieres. I can't remember. The nighttime parade is happening, which is probably going to make Magic Kingdom later in the day or maybe all day be a really busy place to be.
You are correct. It debuts the 20th.
Okay. So we will come back. Our intent isn't necessarily to see the parade because, as I mentioned, we're not huge fireworks or parade people. So we'll probably see some of it, but we'll likely just go ride rides. I did book another dining reservation at the plaza for like around 7:45 that evening. So we could take a break there and have something to eat. And we'll just kind of see how things play out. I wanted to do the fireworks show where it's the seats and suites. I didn't get my act together and get it booked, so currently it's out. So I do have Mouse Watcher. I think
Hmm.
you have mentioned that before. So I did
Hmm.
sign up for Mouse Watcher to see if we could potentially get it for a cancellation. If that happens, we'll kind of change our dining reservation process, but we'll sort of see. We're not huge fireworks fans, but I thought if we didn't have to stake out a spot in the huge crowds and my
Hmm.
son could just have a good place to sit because he is shorter, this we might be willing to do it. So,
Okay. So if it happens.
yep, but we won't be brokenhearted if it doesn't, but sometime we would like to do it.
Okay. And then Wednesday, July 23rd, I think that's going to be Animal Kingdom.
It is Animal Kingdom Day. Yes. So we'll go to Animal Kingdom. And oh, I think I forgot to mention Epcot. The day we're at Epcot is a deluxe resort extended evening hour night as well. And the 23rd at Animal Kingdom is their extended deluxe resort evening hours too. So we kind of strategically placed our days on those as well.
But on the Epcot day, you said not staying for fireworks.
Not staying for fireworks, but we might stay and now that I remember this, and do some other rides or just kind of wander about a little bit. We'll just sort of see how tired everybody is.
Okay. So you just happen to have 2 extended evening theme park hours, which usually fall on Monday and Wednesday. So that's works out well.
Yes.
And again, you're using Premier Pass?
We're using Premier Pass so we can just kind of walk the park the way we want to. We do have a dining reservation kind of midday at Tiffin's. We've never been to Tiffin's. We really wanted Yak and Yeti, but if it is also all booked up for advanced dining reservations, I do have it on Mouse Watcher as well. So we'll see if anything opens up. And I know we can join the walk up list possibly too. So we'll sort of see what happens. But I just thought, well, if all else fails, we'll go to Tiffin's. We've never been there before. We like to get in and sit down and have AC, especially at Animal Kingdom, because it just feels hotter at Animal Kingdom Park for whatever
Yeah.
reason.
Oh, no, it totally does. And that's lunch, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. What are your top priorities at Animal Kingdom?
So the Avatar ride, now I've forgotten it, the
Flight of Passage.
Flight of Passage, the one. So my son loves Flight of Passage, so we definitely want to do that. We love that, and we love Navi River Journey. Last time we were there, we did not get to ride the Cali River Rapids because it was down, and so this will be perfect weather for Cali River Rapids. We never went out on the train to Rafiki's Planet Watch, so we also want to be able to do that. And we have never seen the Lion King show. So that is another priority, is trying to squeeze all those in there.
Yeah. It's pretty doable at Animal Kingdom. So,
Yes,
especially with Premier Pass.
exactly.
But
That's our
that'll work.
hope anyways.
Yeah. Anything else on this day?
So we do have a dining reservation at the Cake Bake Shop later that evening. So when we come back to Boardwalk, I wanted to eat at the Cake Bake Shop. We've actually been in there to get cake, my husband and I, when we were just on a trip ourselves, and it was fun. And so I thought my son would probably get a kick out of it. And so we're going to eat dinner there about 8 o'clock that night. And then the next day we go home, sadly.
Next day you go home. So Thursday, July 24th. When do you have to leave to go to the airport?
So right about 9 o'clock in the morning. So we'll be able to maybe grab some quick service type of breakfast, something quick, and then we'll head to the airport and we'll do a private transportation there as well.
Okay. All right. This all sounds good. I love it. Lots of little ideas.
Yeah. I'm super excited, and I've just learned a lot from your podcast guest. I absolutely love to listen to people's trip reports. It's so funny. At first, I was like, who would want to listen to someone else's trip? And then I was like, oh my gosh, I love these. I get it now. So I
I,
devour them, and I thought it'd be fun to share.
I think that it's like on YouTube, there's video game playthroughs. To
Yeah,
me, you're watching people play a video game and then you play the video game. It's the same thing. You're
that's such a good
listening to people
analogy.
go on trips and then you're going on a trip. I think it's different. Like we have lots of information about how to do things, but
Mhm.
when you see it in action, it helps understand how to apply it. So
Exactly.
I think that's part of the appeal.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, this has been really good to chat with you. And I can't wait to see how it all works out.
Yeah, I can't wait to share, and it's been great to chat with you too, Shannon. Thank you so much.
Okay. I'll talk to you in a few weeks.
Okay, see you soon.
Welcome back from your trip, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Shannon. It's so good to see you.
We're talking on Thursday, July 31st. So you've been back a week.
Yes.
Have you had a little time to recover?
A little bit, although we love Disney so much, we never wanna leave, so it's
Even
not much of a recovery, we just miss it.
already. So overall, how'd the trip go?
It was a wonderful trip overall. I mean, we had so many great times. Like I said, we didn't want it to end. We could have kept going on forever because we were having so much fun.
Let's talk through it then. Let's start with Friday, July 11th. You had a flight to Orlando, and then you were headed to Animal Kingdom Lodge.
Yes. So this was our most stressful day due to travel situations. So we don't have direct flights from where we live in the Midwest, so we have to catch a connection. We were flying Delta, so we were going to connect in Atlanta. and we had a super early morning flight. So we got to the airport about 4:15 in the morning, and our plane was supposed to depart about 5:40 a.m. And then around 5:05, we started to notice that things were not right. Like the plane was there, it had been there overnight, but there was just a lot of activity up at the desk, and you could just sort of see, like they hadn't made any announcements. So you start to go, oh no. So they finally made an announcement and said that our plane was here and had been here, but it had some sort of mechanical issue. But the good news was is that they had a backup airplane on site and they were just driving it over. And so we were like, "Oh, yay, okay, everything's going to be okay. We might be a few minutes delayed," which was okay because we had a pretty good layover just because I'm super always concerned about when we have a layover to have a lot of time. So, roughly 20 minutes later, we noticed something still was not right. And they finally got back on and announced that the backup plane was having an issue as well. And they were waiting for the mechanic to arrive so they could fix it. So, we were going to be delayed, and they had no idea how long that was going to take. So, we started to go, okay, what are our options? Because we're sailing out the next day. So, we need to get there. And so, we go up to we wait a little bit longer because he's, well, maybe it'll be not that long, and if you got a good amount of a layover, you'll probably be okay. For those of you who don't, come and see me. So we waited maybe 30 more minutes, and then I started to kind of get a little panicky about the situation. So I sent my husband up there to see what we could do. And when he finally got up there, I ended up going up there with him because they were like, "Well, we could try to move your flights to later, but unfortunately, all the Delta flights later are full. And our partners, United, American, whatever, those are all full too. So your options are to just try to wait it out and hope you get there." And then I said, "Well, what about Southwest?" And they said, "Well, we don't partner with Southwest. So we could pull your baggage if you can get a Southwest flight, but you have to tell us right now so we can get it out of the plane." Because it's already loaded on the plane. I was like, oh my gosh. So we just sort of sit there and think some more, and time is ticking and all the things. And then so what we ended up doing in that time was just kind of waiting, and we decided, okay, what if we purchase Southwest tickets too? And we bought the business class so that we could cancel them. They've got that up to, 10 minutes before your flight, you can get a refund. I'm like, we could just buy business class and then cancel them if we get on this dang Delta flight. So we did that. We bought additional tickets. And so we're sitting there. And then good news came back and said, after some more mechanical stuff, and couldn't connect to the flight control properly. I mean, it was a whole thing. We eventually did board the plane at 7:35, and then we sat on the plane some more and finally took off around 8:10. We were originally supposed to arrive in Atlanta at 8:55, and our next flight was gonna leave at 11:40, and so I thought, there's a chance we're gonna make it, but if at least we make it to Atlanta, we have options. Like, we could, in a pinch, drive. We could likely get another flight, right? So all this drama, we canceled the Southwest flight once we actually start taxiing. Like, our connecting flight was late. So we had 8 minutes and we made it. So we made it, our connection, luckily, because it was late. All of our baggage made it. And so we did make it into MCO to Orlando a little bit late, but not by much. So after all of that drama, we landed in Orlando, and we had private transportation, of course, picking us up. And he had texted while we were in the air. And so I said, we're going to be a little bit late. I'm not sure. But then we got picked up. And so ultimately, we ended up roughly being within an hour of when we should have been or so landing and on our way to Animal Kingdom Lodge. So in the end, it all worked out, but it was incredibly stressful.
Yeah,
So,
and this kind of situation is exactly why you don't fly in the day of your cruise.
yes,
Because if it had been delayed much more, you would have missed your entire cruise if it was day of.
exactly. So my lesson from that was that just based on where we live and flights and things, I will never from this point forward fly out unless I have at least 2 days before my cruise, and 3 would make me feel the best. So next time we cruise, we are definitely flying out 2 to 3 days before the actual cruise because that was just way too stressful. So our private transportation picked us up and we had a little bit more drama. So we had a well-known company that travel advisors use in Orlando pick us up, and they've been great. We've used them before, but my son goes to sit in the booster seat because he's under the limit. He still needs a booster, and he goes, "Mom, there's something crawling out of this booster seat." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I look down and it's infested with ants. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, get out of it, get out of it." I pull it out from him and I say to the driver, "Hey, this thing is full of ants." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "It like they're just crawling out of it." So he took it and he put it in the front seat. And so then my son had to ride without a booster seat, which did not make me very happy.
But also
But
there's still ants in the car.
they're still ants in the car, but luckily we like they seemed because he had moved the booster seat to where we were sitting. So wherever that booster had been in the back is probably where most of the ants were. I did text the company and tell them about the situation and say, everything ended up working out okay, but please do not send a booster seat with ants again. And you guys need to check your vehicles because if that had been a young baby or something, oh my gosh, I'd have been really freaked out as a parent. So
Yeah, the baby couldn't have told you there's something crawling.
exactly, and could have been bitten. So that was not pleasant either. So I just at that point kind of was laughing like, wow, lots of things are going to go crazy today. So we made it to Animal Kingdom Lodge. And as we were driving, we got the message that our room was not ready. And I was, oh, darn, I was really hoping our room was ready. We were tired and strung out. But it was fine, and that was around about 2:15 or so. We got to Animal Kingdom Lodge, went into the lobby, and I said, "I'm just gonna go to the front desk and check and just see." And as we got up there, was talking with the cast member, she was like, "Oh, your room is ready." And I just was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. We just need a moment." So we talked to her, we got our room, we had a Savannah View room, it was in Jumbo. So it was actually right on the level of the lobby, so just down the hallway, the level of the lobby in Jumbo. We also love to do the character scavenger hunts, and Pumbaa happened to be sitting right there. So we snapped a photo of him so that we could go to the community hall later to obtain the button that you get when you go on this character scavenger hunt. So that was a better way to get the trip going for sure.
All right. So you got settled in your room,
So
and
we
what
got
else did
settled
you
in the
do?
room, could see animals right away, which was great for my son, and that was cool for us too. I mean, it was just a standard room, but it was great to be able to look out and see the animals. So highly recommend if you can swing that at Animal Kingdom Lodge, certainly worth it. That was really cool. Our plan at that moment was to then we hadn't eaten much during all of our travel troubles, so we decided to go to the Mara. And because it was an off time, like around 3 o'clock, I did not mobile order. And I had remembered from one of your previous guests that had stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge, I think Jade, that she said they had trouble with mobile ordering. So I just went, we'll just go down there. And there was hardly anyone there. So we just walked right up and got a snack, and then we decided to go swimming. So my son was very excited to try out the slide. So we went swimming, and we did get refillable mugs for my husband and I since they last, I think, 14 days. So we could use them then. And then when we came back off of the cruise as well, we didn't have anything exciting to eat at the Mara, standard chicken tenders and fries, stuff like that. We did have dining reservation at Boma that evening, and we had originally had it, I think, around 5:15, but because we were later than we expected and we wanted to be able to go down to the community hall and swim, I was still within the window when I looked that I could, within a few minutes, push it back. So I pushed it back closer to 6. I think it was 5:45. So we went to the arcade for a bit after we swam. We also collect the Walt Disney World pressed pennies. So the arcade had the pressed penny machine for Animal Kingdom Lodge. So we did get the pressed pennies there, which we were excited to have. We went back to our room around 5 to get ready for dinner. And we went down and checked in online on the app for Boma right at 5:45, and it was not super busy at that point. Later, it did get quite busy, kind of in the more typical eating hours, but we got right in. We had a great cast member as our server, so he was fantastic. I think I mentioned in our pre-trip that my son is not an adventurous eater. So I'd actually watched some videos on Instagram that showed that Boma had just like plain pasta and rolls in addition to more adventurous food. So I felt good he would have something to eat. So I think a cool thing about Boma is you can get the POG juice, the passion fruit, orange juice, guava, which my husband really enjoys. So we enjoyed the buffet there. My husband said really was some of the best food he'd had at Disney World because he loves kind of the African flavors, especially of like salmon and the meats and things like that. So he highly recommended it. I thought everything was great. So we had a great service and a good dinner at Boma. Then we went to the gift shop there for the purpose of purchasing some snacks for the cruise. Because one thing that I knew from cruising in the past on Disney is like, if your kid is a selective eater, you better bring some familiar snacks with you. So I purchased some snacks I knew he would eat so that we would have them for excursions and also just in case he really was not having or wanting to eat the things we had. So that's a tip I have for people is if your kid is particular, you better be packing a suitcase with some snacks. You know, they're going to eat applesauce packets, whatever, cereals. It all has to be prepackaged and sealed when you get on the cruise ship. So you can't bring food from home type of stuff, but you can bring it if it's sealed. That morning early in the morning, we'd gotten the message from the Disney Cruise Line transportation letting us know the next day that our transportation would pick us up at 9 a.m. or we would meet at 9 a.m. in the lobby at Jumbo and then get picked up at 9:30. So they also let you know that if you want to have them transfer some of your luggage, that you need to set it inside your room door by 7 a.m. the next morning so they can come and get it. You don't have to be present when they come to get it, but they'll come and pick it and it gets magically transported onto the ship and will appear later at your stateroom. So we always do this.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask is if you chose that option.
We did because it was almost a 2-week trip, we had so much stuff. So we had them do everything we could. We just carried our backpacks onto the ship, basically.
If you're in the room, are they coming in the room to get your bag then?
They'll knock on the door,
Okay.
but they will. Like, if you're not in there, they just come right in, but they will knock on the door. So you just know, like, I was like, we have to all be ready, before 7 so that because I've had at a cruise one other time, they were there right at 7 o'clock. So we were ready. I would say make sure to tip your bell services for picking up your bags as well. So we just leave money on top of the suitcases for that service.
Mhm. So Saturday, July 12th, that's how it started was with you making sure your bags were ready by 7. And
Yes.
then did you do anything before the 9 o'clock meeting time?
So we went to the Mara and had Mickey waffles and bacon and OJ, and I downed a Diet Coke, and we just sort of killed some time. We wandered around the resort some more. We looked at the animals. We just kind of just enjoyed and got a better look-see at the resort. And then we finally met in the lobby. It was a big group going to the terminal, to the port from Animal Kingdom Lodge. So it was 2 or 3 busfuls of people. So
Just from that resort.
just from our resort. So when we checked in, because when you meet at the lobby, right, they're checking you in, checking your identification and all that. They gave us a character. So we had Stitch, and that was so they could hold up the little sign with Stitch so that you would know it was your turn to board the bus. So they were doing it by groups. Exciting was the first time we'd gotten an actual Disney Cruise Line bus. So prior to that, we'd had just the unmarked ones. I was excited to have that.
It looks more
It felt
official.
very official when we had the actual bus.
Exactly. So what time did you get to the cruise terminal?
So we got to the cruise terminal around 10:50. It was very smooth. Like there was no traffic. The air show was going on at Cocoa Beach. So people were
Amazing.
posting in our Facebook group about it. And I wondered if it would impact us. But we were early enough that it was super smooth, no issues. So we got there, they escort you off the bus and lead you into the terminal to go through the check-in and security process. We had an awesome cast member checking us in. She just really chatted my son up and gave him a hard time and just kind of was super great. So we were boarding group 4, which was part of our plan why we did the Disney transportation is you get that earlier boarding group. Number 1, you can go right in the terminal when you arrive, and number 2, you get an earlier boarding group. So we hung out in the terminal. We did the pictures. There also is the Disney Cruise Line press penny machine. So if you are a press penny person, that's the one. So you want to make sure you walk towards the back, towards where you enter into the Mickey ears and head and get those as well. We went out and looked at the cruise ship and we're getting very excited. And so you can also connect to the ship's cruise line app so you can see then your rotational dining and the activity. So we did that, got all connected there so we could see. We learned that our meal that night would be at Coco. So that'd be our first rotational dining would be at Coco. So that was fun and exciting.
But at this point, your dining was still late dining?
It's still late dining. So on our pre-trip, I had said part of our plan was to send my husband to Triton Lounge, which is where the treasure tries to adjust your dining if you want it. And so then we had talked, my husband and I, a little bit and then decided maybe we would just stick with later dining because we had excursions and things, and maybe that would be okay. Because if you go to early dinner, you go to the late show. And then I thought, well, my son probably will fall asleep during the show. So it's probably better. In the end, that ended up being a mistake. I will tell you that. But we just decided, okay, we're going to stick with the dining we were assigned. So that's the 8:15 rotational dining. So we boarded the ship just a little before noon. So we went in. It's very fun when they announce you when you get on the ship by your name. The treasure is beautiful. When you walk in, it's got kind of that darker tone, like jewel tones, and it's beautiful and is amazing. So was awesome to walk in and see it. We did hustle right up to the pool deck, which is on deck 11, so we could grab a table by the pools and get some lunch and try to do some of the slides and pools before it got really crowded. You can't typically enter your stateroom until between 1:30 and 2. So as the groups board, it becomes you feel all 4,000 plus people on that ship. And so I wanted to make sure we had a table. We were there so early that the Aqua Mouse wasn't open, and it doesn't open until after the muster drill. But the other slide, the T-Rex something, it's Rex from Toy Story, was open and the pools were. So my son was able to go down that water slide, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 times with a couple of other kids that were on there early as well. So we had our first, cruise line ice cream cone, had some lunch. I had a chicken taco bowl from Donald's. My husband had a hamburger. My son ate some fries and ice cream. And we just kind of hung out on the pool deck for a while. I did kind of walk up to, I think it's kind of behind the funnel vision. I wanted to go to Wheezy's Freezies because I'd heard they had Dole Whip on that ship, and I knew the Fantasy does. And we love Dole Whip, but the cast member told me, we have Dole Whip, but it's not like the solidified kind. It's more like a slush. So if you're hoping for Dole Whip, it sort of exists, but it'd be more fun if you had some sort of adult beverage mixed in with it versus just eating it. It's kind of intended for that, I think. And then we did decide about close to 1:30 to go ahead and get off the pool deck because it was really busy. It was hopping. And just see if our room was ready. And we walked down there because we were on deck 10. And so just short steps down, and we could see the rooms were not ready yet. And so we then decided to just keep exploring the ship. So we went down and decided to just check out the kids clubs. Even though I was pretty sure my son wouldn't go without us to the kids club, they have a great way the kids enter it. They have a slide on deck 3, I believe, that goes into the Oceaneers Club. And so he rode the slide into the Oceaneers Club 6, 7, 8, 9 times. And then we kind of ran around in there and looked around at all the cool stuff. And my husband and I were like, man, if we were kids, this would have been the most amazing thing we'd ever seen. And so it was really cool. All the theming, the Marvel, the Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. But of course,
Was it interesting enough for your son to wanna go back?
only if we were with him.
Oh, okay.
He didn't want to, he's like, I don't want to be left. I want you to be with me. His favorite thing at the kids' clubs is the automatic hand washing machines, which are pretty cool. So if you go on a cruise, you should check those out. They are fun, and that's really, aside from the slide, one of his favorite things. So then we just sort of wandered around a little bit more, and then the closer to 2 o'clock, the rooms were ready. And so we decided to go to our room and get settled. Your luggage is not generally to your stateroom yet. You can just kind of hang out in there. My husband met our stateroom host. His name was Elaine, and he was phenomenal. He was fantastic. Like, I don't know how he did it, but he was so quick and quiet. We hardly ever saw him, but he was always present with all of the great things he was doing. So he was amazing. At 3:30, you got to go down for the muster drill. So we kind of hung out and then went down to the muster drill. And right after that, you can do the sail away party. We decided not to do the sail away party. It was very packed and very hot and very busy. And we kind of were like, no, we're just going to watch us kind of sail away from our veranda. So we were in a deluxe ocean room, family stateroom. So we took a breather. We put our cruise magnets on our door after that we had. And then we just got some more ice cream and watched the ship pull away from the port. And it was taking a while. So then we decided to go up and stand where you kind of at the front of the ship where you can stand and you're looking back at all the officers' quarters and watch the ship pull out. A storm was coming over Florida, so it was kind of cool and you could see the beach and everything. So we stood out there and watched it pull away, and then it got really windy, so we went back into the ship. That night, the entertainment was a juggler comedian named Ivan Skinful, and he's fun and great. We'd seen him on the Fantasy so last summer, and my son really loved him. So we decided we would go to his 6 o'clock show, and then we would go to our 8:15 rotational dining at Coco. And so that's what we ended up doing. The shops are not open on the cruise ship when you're in any port. So once you hit some line you can't see and you're in international water, the shops open. And of course, that first night, they're bananas. But we did go into it because I wanted the inaugural sailing treasure picture frame. We could
Mhm.
put a picture in it. And we, of course, bought some other stuff in there that we couldn't resist. So we did that, and then we just kind of went down to the show. They had lots of fun popcorn buckets and sippers, all the Star Wars ones. They had the Mickey one where he's interactive with you. I saw a lot of people picking that one up. We did not. We resisted just because of luggage space. We knew we were going to the parks too and later. So you can bring your popcorn bucket and get the discounted refills on the cruise ship, just like in the park. That
Mhm.
is pretty great. So we went to the 6 o'clock show and it was great. We had a great time. It lasted about an hour. It was in the big Walt Disney World theater. And then we kind of went back to the room and for a little bit, kind of wandered around some more, and then we went to our dining. And we arrived right at 8:15, so they were letting people into Coco already. You know, Coco is kind of in the same space if you've been on the Wish as the Frozen show. So it's got that same setup, but all, of course, themed to Coco. And then during your dinner, they have the kind of stage show with, now I forgot the kid in Coco's name. Miguel, right? Okay. And so then people from the movie are in there and the band. So they're playing live music, which is great. You know, the only challenge with that in that big open space is it's loud. So you really aren't talking to anyone because it's loud, but it's very interesting and fun and very well themed. So we met our dining team, which stays with you the whole time you cruise. They rotate to your rotational dining with you. And the only challenge we had ended up being is that for whatever reason, our dining team was working so hard and were very lovely people, but I don't know what happened, but our dinners took an incredibly long time, like sometimes over 2 hours. And at that late, that ended up being a mistake for us. We couldn't hang a lot of times with our son. He was just kind of over having a 2-hour dinner. So that night, the food was really good. My husband got the chorizo croquettes were good. I had the goat cheese and beets appetizer, which I didn't know I liked goat cheese and beets, but it was amazing.
A good way to
The
find
food
out.
Right? So great way to try different foods you probably wouldn't normally try. They served chips and salsa, which, is always a crowd pleaser. So we enjoyed that. Because dinner was taking so long, my son knew the Aqua Mouse was open. And of course, when it opened right after the muster drill, the line was, you know, in true Disney fashion, massive. And I said, "We'll try to ride it maybe after dinner," because it was staying open till 10. And so about 9:40, our dessert still wasn't there, and he was like, "Can we just leave dad here and you and I go ride the Aqua Mouse?" And I said, "Yes." So I left my husband to get the desserts, and we ran back to our stateroom, changed into our swimsuits, ran up to the Aqua Mouse, and of course, at that late at night, we walked right on it.
Mhm.
It's super fun. At night, it's cold to be sprayed with water even in the summer in the Caribbean. That wasn't my favorite, but the little show that's part of it and everything is great. And it was kind of more thrilling to go through those tubes in the complete darkness. You can see nothing. So that was kind of fun. So we enjoyed that. My husband got all the desserts to go and brought them back to the room, and we still beat him back. So we got changed, rode the Aqua Mouse, came back, and we were changing for bed, and he finally came back. So
That is really late, like 10:30 by the time he
yeah,
got back?
it was a long time, and I
Yeah.
said, "Man, I hope that's just first night." I kept thinking, "Well, everyone's kind of getting back in the groove," but that it really ended up being kind of a challenge the whole trip, unfortunately.
Yeah, that stinks. We often travel with groups of people, and so if it takes a long time, I'm like, "Well, there's a lot of us." But with your family of 3, there's gotta be some other explanation.
Yeah, I my husband was like, "They are hustling." I mean, our
Mhm.
servers were sweating. I mean, they never stopped moving, so I was like, "It's some sort of structural thing."
Yeah,
I don't know.
understaffed or something.
Something, because
Yeah,
other tables were coming in after us and leaving before us, so I knew because I was kinda watching, I was like, "I don't know what's happening there." So,
yeah, that's unfortunate.
yeah.
Well, so overall, pretty good first day.
Yes.
Sunday, July 13th was your next day, and it was a day at sea.
Yes, a sea day. So I'm a super early riser and an avid walker. So one of my favorite things to do is to get up while my family's still sleeping and wander around the ship and get my exercise in, along with all the other early birds that you can chat with that are up that early. So I was out of the room well before 6:30 in the morning, wandering the ship and just kind of enjoying it, taking pictures and just kind of going out and looking at the ocean and all that. Hey Cafe, which is so cute because we were big Moana fans, opens up about 6:30. So I did stop and get a coconut caramel latte, something like that. It's kind of the known coffee drink on there with the cute imprint. I got Olaf, which I will say was slightly confused because I was at Hey Hey's Cafe. I thought I was gonna get a Moana imprint, but I got an Olaf, which was fine. I went back to the room. My family was finally waking up, kind of taking it easy. We did go to the buffet, which is Marceline Market, around 9:30 for breakfast. So you could do the buffet or you could go to 1923 was doing the sit down lunch and breakfast daily if you didn't want the buffet or pool deck food. So we did the buffet and it was fine. It was great. They have pog juice on the treasure, so everyone was happy with that. Had some Mickey waffles and kind of the standard buffet food. On sea days, at least once, from my understanding, is the hero zone opens up, which is on deck 12 on the Treasure, and I think the Wish as well. That has the basketball courts, air hockey, foosball, that kind of stuff. They do activities for the older kids in there too. But on that day, the Incredicourse was open, which is their big inflatable Incredibles themed course. And my son, of course, wanted to do that. So we went in there. So note, it's the summer. Make sure still that you have socks because you can't run the Incredicourse without socks on. So a lot of people were frustrated getting turned away because they didn't have socks. So I don't think
That
they
is a
sell socks
bummer.
on the ship.
Yeah, that stinks because
I don't always pack socks when it's
Right?
hot weather.
Yep. So I think a few people were frustrated with that. And I think, gosh, Disney's missing it. They could be selling really expensive socks to people.
Exactly. Exactly.
But we knew that, so we had our socks. And so I was my kiddo wanted me to run it, but a lot of people were watching and I just could not I didn't couldn't stand the humiliation. I didn't think because I thought, "I'm not sure I could do this gracefully." So I made my husband do it with my son 3 times, and they had a great time. So it is really fun and gets the energy out, and adults can do it, and you have to be a certain height and size and age to do it as a kiddo, but super fun. We stayed in there and played air hockey and foosball and just kind of enjoyed that area, which was super fun.
Mhm.
And then they were playing the live action Lilo and Stitch, which we'd held out from watching because we thought it would be on the ship. So we went to the Walt Disney Theater and we did watch that movie, which was great. My son thinks the animated version's better, but I liked the live action better. I thought it was fun. So we enjoyed a movie, and then after that, my son wanted to ride the Aqua Mouse with my husband. The line was looking to be 45 minutes to an hour long. It's blazing hot on the pool deck. So they got in line, they got changed and got in line, and then I wandered to the upper decks onto the adults only area, which is right next to the Aqua Mouse's entrance, so I could watch them. And in the end, it took them about an hour to get through that. So it for a short ride, it's a true Disney line, right?
Without a lightning lane, though.
Without a lightning lane. We did learn though, which we used later, is that you can do rider swap. So I could have stood up there with them and then they would have let me stand to the side. And when they came back through, my husband would have gotten off and I could get on and he could ride it again. So you should try to do rider swap on there. That way you don't have to wait another hour trying to get back on it if you have multiple kids that want to ride it with you. So then we had some pool deck food, some pizza and fries and ice cream and all that. And then we decided we would try, because this is around 3:45, to go to the Haunted Mansion parlor because we were just really excited about that. And it is
Okay.
a very cool space. So we walked right in and a couple people were leaving and we were able to snag their table. You really want to have a good 20 to 30 minutes or more to sit in there because it cycles through a show basically like a ride and it gives you all the Haunted Mansion feels. So if that's your vibe, you definitely want to do that. My husband got the Chilling Challenge drink, which is an alcoholic drink. It's served in a cool box, and they kind of do a dramatic opening of the box for you, and you get a little death certificate thing with it. I My son tried the grape grinning grape bottled soda, which was just like a grape soda, and then I got a non-alcoholic ghostly retreat, which had glow cubes and gummy eyeballs in it, which was fun. So super great. So we stayed there about 45 minutes and then we went back to the room to get ready because that night the show was Seize the Adventure, I think is what it's called, with Goofy, the live kind of Broadway show. I've seen it once and I actually love it. I think it's one of my favorites. So
Mhm.
my son had not seen it. So we went to the 6 o'clock show for that. And then afterwards we went out on the deck and played shuffleboard and waited for dinner. And that night we were eating at 1923. And
Mm.
again, it was very good food and took a really long time. So towards the latter part of it, my son was like, I'm kind of over these really long dinners. We did bring games and toys to play at the table so that we could keep him occupied. So we have a little dice game called Left, Right, Center and
Mhm.
some little toys that we could play with. So
It's just such a long time.
it is a long time. It is that late in the day when you've been doing a lot of stuff.
Exactly. You're starting at 8:15, you're not getting done till after 10. Mm.
Yeah, so next time, most certainly, we will be trying to get to the early rotational dining for sure. So that then we just went back to the room because it was past 10 o'clock and went to bed. And
Yeah,
we knew
not
we
much
had
else you can do at that point.
and we knew we had a busy day the next day.
The next day was Monday, July 14th, and this was your Cozumel day.
Yes. So we'd never been to Cozumel, Mexico, so we were really excited. It was just something we were looking forward to. We had booked an excursion And it was called the Coosa Beach Club VIP All-Inclusive Experience. If you look it up on the Disney Cruise Line Excursion website, it's CZ122, if you're curious. And they have different versions of the Coosa Beach Club excursions, like a family package and some other stuff. And so it was in the morning is when we were getting off. So we got to Cozumel. We kind of watched us coming in early in the morning, had some breakfast at Marceline Market, and then we needed to be at World of Marvel restaurant to meet up for that's where your app told you to go for to meet up with the excursion part of it. So we need to be there about 8:45. And so, I had gotten up early to walk that day again. I'd gotten another coffee at Hey Hey's Cafe, and I got Olaf again, even though I was hoping for something Moana themed. I got Olaf. And so we got to World of Marvel. They give you a sticker to wear of a character, and that's kind of who you follow out of the ship so that you get on the right transportation to whatever excursion that you have. And so I think we had Pinocchio that day. And we got off the ship and we walked a bit, and they kind of picked us up as we were off the ship. Our guide for the day, whose name was Myra, and she was fantastic, from Coosa Beach Club, which my understanding is it's a relatively new beach area in Cozumel that they're doing. So, and they did a fantastic job. So it took a bit. It took about 30 minutes once we got on transportation because you have to walk through all the shops at the port and everything to kind of get down and get on your bus. And so then we went to the Coosa Beach Club. So you kind of got to go through Cozumel a little bit. And she gave some history about the Mayan ruins and the Mayan culture and the Mayan language that's part of their rich history. So she was very knowledgeable and great. And so when we got there, she was like, I'll be here the whole time. If you need anything, come and see Myra. And then you kind of got walked to this area, and it's all inclusive. So they give you drink tickets for alcoholic drinks, and then they greeted you with some non-alcoholic punch. They would bring you snacks, like they brought you fresh guacamole and chips, and you just right to your lounge chair. And it was just a beach day. So we just played at the beach. All that was included in the cost of the excursion. And then the buffet lunch was also included. So then we did go and have some good lunch. I will say my non-adventurous eater wasn't having it. So thankfully we had some potato chips and stuff like that he could eat.
Brought your
So
snacks.
we brought our snacks. And so we stayed until roughly, I think we were back on the boat around 2:15 that afternoon. So it was just like a half a day, but which was great because it was a hot day. It was beautiful water. It was super fun. Just a good beach day. We brought sand toys, and if some people might want to have water shoes because that edge as you're going into the ocean does have a lot of the broken shells and everything. So if you don't like stepping on that, which isn't my favorite, but I didn't bring my water shoes. I just kind of grinned and bared it. So it's not comfortable until you kind of get out into the water.
And were
But
those beaches clear of like seaweed and stuff like that?
yes, they were very clear, very blue, kind of turquoise and beautiful. I mean, it was a fantastic beach day. And really that ended up being our favorite excursion. Everyone there was so welcoming, so helpful, so wonderful. We just really had a great time. So if you had any question, they would help you. Just great people. So it was lots of fun. Loved it. Would highly recommend it and do it again.
Good. So back to the boat by the afternoon. What'd you do before dinner, I guess?
So we got back on the boat and got some snacks for my son primarily, and we went to Jumbo Sweets, which is the sweet shop inside that you can purchase additional fun cupcakes and additional ice cream treats and all kinds of goodies. So we had some goodies. Then we sat in our room for a while and just chilled and kind of got cleaned up before dinner. I like to they do, pictures either with characters or just kind of picture options, all kind of towards that, all during the day, but then towards that 5 o'clock on, they're doing all kinds of dinner-esque pictures. So I wanted to do some pictures. I want to force my family to do that. So we decided, I think the entertainment that night was some sort of magician, and we opted not to do that. So we went and did a bunch of pictures because we did buy the photo package, because I do think if you're into pictures, you can really maximize your picture opportunities with characters and other things. And they had a ton of magic shots, which of course my kid loves the magic shots. And so after that, we just kind of hung out on the deck 5, kind of overlooking the Grand Hall. And I had a coffee from the Jade Cricket Cafe, which is the other coffee shop, which was great. Same kind of coffee. And we played games. And then our rotational dinner that night was Worlds of Marvel. We were pretty excited for that because my son, of course, likes Marvel. So we were in line. We thought, okay, we're going to even try to be earlier. So we're one of the first people getting into that dining room to maybe hopefully shave some time off of our dinner. It didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. It still took a lot of time. So we had really good food there. So everything was good. My husband did not like what he got. He got a tuna steak. He did not end up caring for it, even though he loves all kinds of fish. I would say the Spider-Man cupcake on the kids menu is great. So you should just have that just for fun, even if you have no kids. It's delicious. They do have on that first night, Spider-Man does come. So if your kid's into that, he comes at the very end. So you kind of have to wait. And it was getting kind of tough for us. But finally, that was a highlight. Spider-Man came. We did the show, of course, that's part of it with Ant-Man. That sort of keeps you engaged. And we were back in the room, I don't know, by 10:30.
That's going to be the routine this cruise, I guess.
Yes. So the next
day was another port day. So you had Tuesday, July 15th. Your port was Georgetown, Grand Cayman.
Yes. So luckily, the excursion we had for that didn't start till around noon. So we had this late dinner. We can just kind of be slow in the mornings, let my son sleep in so that he's fresh and cooperative for adventuring. So the thing about Grand Cayman is it's a tender port. So you just kind of dock out by the port, and then you got to take the little boats into the actual port. So, you definitely need to. Oh, and I believe the time had changed when we went to Mexico too. So we had a time change, which they are very good about informing you of. And then also just making sure you didn't miss your tender back to the ship. I mean, they're reminding you of that every moment. So we got there about 10:30. Our excursion wasn't till about noon. That day, I actually went up very early and I went to deck 8, which is where they have the laundry. And I did some laundry on there just so our swimsuits and stuff would be fresh. Even as early as I was in there, which was like, I don't know, 5:15 in the morning, it was pretty busy. Now there's a lot in that laundry room. So it's one laundry room versus having it on every deck or every floor, but it was great and no issues. Did some laundry. So we met at Worlds of Marvel again for our noon excursion, and our excursion was the Cayman Crystal Caves tour, which is G91 in the cruise information. It was also fantastic. So it would have been our second, rivaling our trip to Cozumel, but rivaling that as well. So that was great. So we tendered. Then we took a bus that was about 40 to 45 minutes to the caves. So I was really grateful that I had water, snacks, and toys for my son. And we got separated with how the bus was configured from my husband. So he had to ride by himself up front towards the driver, which was probably fine for him because I think he slept. So I entertained our kid and while we drove to the caves. And so the traffic is pretty heavy on Grand Cayman. So that slows you down and it's not very fast driving either. But it was very well organized. We got to the Crystal Caves and our guide's name was Sid. So if you go to this and you can get Sid, his family is part owner of the Crystal Caves. So it's owned by a family, is my understanding. And they give these tours. He was fantastic with the kids on the tour. We had a wonderful time. It's hot, it's jungly feeling, but he was so engaging and he got to know my son and had great conversations with him and the other kids. So it was great. It lasts about 3.5 hours. And when we left, it was really heavy traffic. So I bet it took almost an hour to get back to the port. In fact, we got back to the port at 5 and the last tender leaves at 5:30. So you kind of feel, even though you're on a Disney approved excursion, it still makes you feel stressed when you're that close.
Yes, it does. And I've learned that, I mean, I always book Disney excursions too because I thought, well, at least it won't leave without me. But the truth is, it can leave without you. It's just that they will make sure you make it to the next port. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that either.
I want to make it
Exactly.
here.
Yeah, for sure. So we got back on the boat, everything was great. We were exhausted though, because it was a lot of walking in very hot and humid temperatures as you would expect, and in and out of caves and all that kind of stuff. Cool thing about it is we got to see just hordes of fruit bats in those caves, which my son just absolutely loved. It was so cool. So cool. So highly recommend that. So we got back on the boat, got a snack, and got showered. And this was pirate night. And so we had some matching pirate night shirts. And I'd actually gotten my husband and my son some shirts that were Chip and Dale themed, that were pirate, that said, one said double, one said trouble. And so our goal was to meet Chip and Dale in their pirate apparel so we could get a picture because I thought that
Hmm.
would be fun. And we had decided that we would skip our rotational dining back at Coco tonight because we had an early excursion the next day, and my son was so tired.
But also, it might have gone through the pirate show, right? Like the duration of it.
Yes. Which we didn't end up going to after all anyways, because
Okay.
everyone was too tired to do it. So that was kind of a bummer that it just was a busy excursion day. And so I just didn't think my son could hang. He was so tired. So we ended up putting on the pirate garb, going to meet Chippendale, taking a few other pictures, and then we ended up just going to Periscope Pub, which is really cool. And then you can purchase snacks in there, heavy snacks. Like we got a giant soft pretzel, coconut shrimp, churros, drinks, and we ate that for dinner. That's what we ate for dinner. And we played some games in there and just enjoyed the ambiance. And then my husband got a glass of mead because he likes mead, and that was fun. And we were back in our room by 8:30, and we were in bed by 9 o'clock.
Yeah. You would
So
have still been eating if you're in the dining room.
yes, and sadly though we missed the pirate stuff, which is kind of sad, but is what it is. Eventually someday we're going to make it to all of the pirate events. We've only ever been to the early show one other time.
But you've had 3 port days in a row, which makes it harder because it's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
The third of those, that was the next day, Wednesday, July 16th, and you were in Falmouth, Jamaica.
Yes. So we got to Jamaica and we had this early morning excursion. So we had to be down at the Walt Disney Theater to meet our excursion group by 7:45. So we were up having to get some food, at the buffet and just get ready to go. And our excursion was the all-inclusive resort day pass, so FA 91. It was to last about 6.5 hours, so a full day. They bus you to the all-inclusive resort there, which I believe it was the Royalton Resort is where we were. And then you spend the day there enjoying the beach and all of its amenities. And so our tour guide, we got off the ship about 8:05 and she picked us up. Her name was Chantel and she was absolutely wonderful. She was a fantastic tour guide as well. So when we got on the bus, she's giving you all kinds of information about Jamaica, and she even had props like native plants and just kind of how things work and what it's been like to grow up there as a kid, like differences between, different countries and things like that. So she was a fountain of information and wonderful. And it was a short ride, so just about 15 minutes from the boat to the resort. The one thing she told us, so whenever we leave the boat for an excursion, even though Disney says not necessarily to do this, you have to have some form of ID to get back on, but not to take your passport. But we always do because I just have this fear that something would happen and I don't ever want to be stranded. Like I want to be able to walk to a foreign country airport and fly home on my own fruition if I want it. So I take our passports. But what she told us was when we got to the resort, in order to get our wristband, we had to give them our passport and they would keep it for the day. And that, for whatever reason, I've never had that happen. It made me really anxious. I
What
wish
if
I
you
had
didn't
known that.
have it?
Say what?
What if you didn't have your passport?
I don't know. It seemed like everybody on our excursion did, but they didn't say anything about it prior, so I don't know.
That is
So,
nerve-wracking.
yeah, it made me very anxious for the whole day because I was like, "What if they lose it?" Like, "Oh my goodness." It was kind of nerve-wracking. So, just that was part of that excursion. We ended up not loving this excursion. So, we got to the resort and it was a fairly expensive excursion to do this one, and you really did not feel super welcomed there as a day pass person. And when we got there, it was pretty early, and so a lot of things weren't open. Now you could access the beach from the resort, the pool, they have water slides, a lazy river, a restaurant, that kind of stuff. But a lot of that, aside from the beach, wasn't even open yet. They did have cabanas that you could rent for an extra fee. We tried to and were unsuccessful because they looked really fun. They had little mini pools in front of them and stuff. It the resort had a lot of deferred maintenance issues. So, like, you go in the bathrooms and only 1 toilet stall would be available out of 5. Like, and there's a fair amount of people as time went on as the resort guests are, getting out and about as well. So, it was not our favorite. I mean, the ocean and the beach and all of that was beautiful. The water is beautiful, but it was becoming a rough sea day. So when we first got there and we got in the water, it was just kind of normal, but then you could tell the weather was shifting. It looked like it was going to rain and the water got very rough. So no one was in the ocean at that point because it just was kind of rough. So we just hung out by the pool. My son and husband did the lazy river a lot. They went down the water slides. You it's a this made me laugh. You're on a Disney cruise or you're in the Disney sphere and, safety and just kind of controlled environments is their thing, right? It's
Mhm.
extreme in some instances. But then you come to someplace else and their version of it is very noticeably different, right? It's not necessarily wrong. It's just not, it's kind of less than their kind of safety. So, like, the lifeguards were sleeping at the pools in their chair and playing their switches, and so my husband was like, "I don't think you should go down the water slide because I think that's gonna freak you out." I tend to be kind of very cautious with water and my kids, so he's like, "You should probably just chill on this beach chair, and I'll handle it." But
Yeah,
the
I
flip side to
you said it's not necessarily worse, but I would argue that a lifeguard that's asleep is worse.
I'm trying to be I'm just different, right? I'm trying to
Mhm.
see the good in it was this. So, like at a Disney pool, at a resort, or on the ship or anything, there's no roughhousing. There's just it's very tame, very tame. My husband and my son roughhoused in that lazy river like wild hooligans, and no one cared. So that was the plus side is they really could. My son was worn out because it was rambunctious play and there was no whistling. The lifeguard was asleep. So, I mean, do know that, different places have different ways of being and standards, and you should account for that. And as the day went on, it had a swim up bar at the pool and all the fun stuff. And the crowd got increasingly more adult and the music and things. So it was a very party. When we left, I was like, this is the party vibe, which was not my kind of thing I want to hang out with my kid at. Looked super fun, but just not kind of the family vibe. So
But it was a long excursion, so you were in it for most of the day.
we were in it. And then, so our guide, Chantel, told us meet in the lobby at 2 p.m., right? And that gives us a little buffer in case people are lollygagging or it takes time. Well, it took a while to get your passport back because, like, they had to go in the back and search for it. I mean, it did give me a moment of panic at one point. It took probably 15 minutes to get our passport back. So we went early and then we were just hanging out in the lobby with a ton of other families that had gone on the excursion with us. We're all just waiting around and Chantel is wandering around checking off, everybody that she's supposed to be responsible for. And then I realize some people are missing. And so she starts talking to us and says, there's 2 people missing and I'm trying to determine if they left and just went, Ubered back to the ship or something on their own and didn't tell her. But, she's not supposed to leave people behind. And I felt terrible for her because, she said, I could lose my job, because I can't account for these two missing people. They never did show up. We didn't even leave until 40 minutes later, and they never did show up. So I'm assuming they went back to the ship on their own, but it was kind of obnoxious that they didn't at least tell her because she was there the whole time wandering around checking on you. So it was easy to get a hold of her. So we got back to the ship and we had a snack and ice cream, took a breather in the room. The entertainment that night was a singing group, so we skipped it. And dinner was at 1923 again, which the food there is very good and we like it. So we wanted to try to go to that. We have pictures of my son who promptly fell asleep at the table. I mean, the minute he sat down, he could hardly hang. So he was asleep. So we enjoyed our meal, had lots of good food there. That was the night they served my son's favorite type of ice cream. So I was sad that he could not be roused to have it. So he loves mint chocolate chip ice cream and they had that, but he was just too tired. And again, it was after 10 o'clock before we
Mhm.
got out of there. And the crazy thing was the table next to us, they kind of had moved some people around, but the table next to us, they didn't even come get sat because they were the parents of one of the performers in the show. So they were there with her and they had come in probably closer to 9 o'clock and they were almost done before us. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Would love to know why that worked that way.
Exactly.
All right. That was the end of Wednesday. The next day was Thursday, July 17th, and it was a day at sea.
It was a day at sea, which we desperately needed. After all of our excursions and all that fun, we needed a rest. So it was a welcome reprieve. We did wake up though. I woke up and I was like, "Oh man, the ship is rocking." Like I've been on limited cruise and I've always had calm seas. So I woke up and I was like, I can really feel the ship moving. And I was like, oh, interesting, right? New experience. So it wasn't unmanageable and none of my family got motion sick from it. I was curious. I'm like, will we get motion sick? I was prepared for it, but we didn't. But a lot of people, I think, were experiencing some good motion sickness. Tons of people with the patches on. But I was hearing from people that people were in the room not feeling great. So it really stayed very rough through the whole day until the next day. So we got up, took it slow. We decided to do the sit down breakfast versus the buffet at 1923. So that was fun. This is the day that they serve the famous Mickey churro waffles, though, on the buffet. So if you want to try the churro waffles or you love them, you want to, our server told us that the night before too, just made sure we knew. I am sadly the only member of my family who likes the churro waffles. So I took one for the team because they didn't want to go because they knew the buffet was going to be crazy because of that. And everybody was sleeping in just like us. So it was going to be busy. So I said, we'll just skip it. So I did not get to have a churro waffle this time. Right after breakfast, the new movie Elio was playing in one of the theaters. So we quickly booked it over there and took in Elio. If you haven't seen it, it's a very good movie. I cried the entire time though. So
The
if that is
entire
not
time.
it was very emotional for me.
Mm.
It was a Disney one that got me. So my son was like, "Are you still crying?" I'm like, "I am." So it was good. It was a full theater. So we enjoyed Elio, and then we had an early lunch at Marceline Market, and then we went back to the Hero Zone. They didn't have the Incredicourse up again, but they had, air hockey and foosball and basketball. So we did that. We did some more shopping. We just kind of made sure we didn't miss anything at any of the shops. Want to make sure we
Mhm.
had that done. We decided to ride the Aqua Mouse one last time and do the rider swap, and we waited about 45 minutes, but then we did the rider swap, and that was great.
So I had a question about rider switch because normally in the parks we think of rider switch as being where a kid isn't tall enough to ride, so the parents or older kids or whatever take turns riding. But in your case, it sounds like rider switch allowed your son to go twice each time with one of you.
That's how it ended up working, and so they were letting other families do that with their kids as well, and so I think part of the challenge was on the windier days, you even if you're of a certain size, you still have to have another person in the raft. It has to be 2 people because some
Mhm.
days they would let just 1 person be on the raft, but if it was a windy day, they said because of that, you had to have the full weight of the raft. So, it was a windier day that day too, and so they just let us do it, and we asked, and so, yeah, I'm not exactly sure. He just said, "Sure." It was
Yeah.
really chill, and no one was upset by it, and so it was all good.
Okay. You don't know if it was an official policy or just something that they were doing.
Well, it's some yeah, I don't know if it's an official policy for sure. We just had seen other parents being able to do it previously,
Mhm.
so we asked about it.
It worked out for you.
It worked out for us for sure.
Okay. What'd you do after that then?
So then we decided we needed to meet some characters. We really hadn't met any characters, and I love to have the progression of time with my son with all of the characters. Of course, his favorite character is Donald Duck, who is very popular guy. And I love Mickey, and I really love everyone, but I wanted him to have a picture with Mickey, have a picture with Donald. Donald was actually in his formal attire on this day. That we'd had formal night, I think it's the first or second night where the characters are all in their formal attire, but those lines were incredibly long. And that was really a theme on this cruise is lines were long. So you needed to, have your good attitude and your patience in check because every line was pretty long. So even towards the end, when you'd think a lot of people had already had pictures, nope, they were still long. So we went ahead and got pictures with Mickey, got picture with Donald in his formal attire, which we'd not had that picture, which was great. And so we decided again to skip rotational dining during the day, this day, because that night the show was the new show Moana. They were
Mhm.
playing it at 2 p.m., 6 p.m., and 8 p.m. I knew the 2 p.m. show was gonna be bananas, and it was. I mean, people were waiting like an hour and a half outside the theater because all the little kids, of course, were gonna go to that. And I thought, well, we'll just go to our 6 o'clock show. And because the next day was our day at Castaway Cay and we had parasailing at 9 o'clock, I wanted to make sure that we'd had a good night's sleep and everything. And because dining was taking so long, we just made that decision anyways. So we decided what we would do for dinner is we'd watch Moana, and then my son was like, "I'd love to sit on the pool deck and watch a movie on the funnel vision and eat my dinner." And I said, "Sounds great." So we were just going to do that. So we got in line about 45 minutes early to get to Moana. So we did stand in line. There was some frustration with the line management. I ended up, even though I'd stood in line a long time, we had stood in line a long time, lost our spot because they moved the line and people went bananas and just took your spot as they do. And I just knew it was going to happen the minute they did it. And I just made my peace with it,
Mm.
made my peace. So we stood in a long line. The show was phenomenal. It's amazing. The puppetry work is amazing. So if you go on the Treasure and you get a chance to see it, it was well worth it. I enjoyed it. It's great. So love Moana.
A show is popular when they have a daytime option as well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's great. So if you love Moana, you're going to definitely want to do that. So we watched the show. We did exactly what we're going to do. We went up to the pool deck to funnel vision to, I can't even remember what movie was playing at the time. It could have been The Incredibles 2, maybe is what we were watching. And so then we just ate pool deck food, burgers and fries and ice cream and that stuff. And that day, I had not gotten up to walk because I was exhausted. And so I was like, I'm really diligent about getting my steps and my exercise in. And so I told my husband, while you guys sit here and watch this, I'm going to do my walk. It's really nice out. It looks like it could rain potentially. So I was like, I'm going to go do my walk while you finish this up. So this is approximately 8:15. I start walking and it's fine. And then all of a sudden, the captain comes on this over the entire ship, which if you've been on a cruise, that doesn't happen except like at the beginning. That's normally something's wrong if the captain's coming on. And so at 8:45, he comes across the speaker and tells the entire ship that somebody has taken very ill on our cruise. They have a medical emergency and they need to take the passenger to an island where they can offload them so they can get proper medical treatment. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass by and stop at Lookout Key in the night and drop the passenger off so they can get more advanced medical care. And so then we would journey on to Castaway Cay, but it would put us later because of stopping at Lookout Key, which is completely understandable. Feel terrible, that somebody's having a terrible time on their cruise and a medical emergency. So right after he finished that announcement, it began to pour rain. So I ran inside. My boys took cover under the deck so they could finish watching the movie, kind of where it's covered. And then we all headed to bed about 9:30 that night. And we were just unsure, like they kind of said we'll adjust some of the excursions that are on Castaway in the morning, but it really depends on when we get there. They have to have at least 45 minutes to set the island up with the crew that goes off the ship and all that stuff. So they just said, stay tuned and, pay attention to the announcements. So, and according to another passenger that I talked to in the morning, we didn't stay up, of course, but she was up and she said and watched the ship dock at Lookout Key about midnight, and they quickly offloaded the ill person and they took him by ambulance away. And she said it was like 10 or 15 minutes. That's how quickly they docked the boat, got the passenger off, and carried on. So,
Yep. Also, another good reason to have travel insurance because
100%, right?
you never know when something like that's going to happen to you.
Exactly.
Okay. So, in the night they did that. So, when did you get to Castaway Cay on Friday the 18th?
So we were there roughly around 8 o'clock, but we weren't able to get off the boat until about 9:30. And about 9:15, they started updating the cruise app with all your port excursions. And then they sent me a note within the messaging of the app that said, due to high wind, parasailing and those boat excursions were canceled anyways. So my son was super bummed, and my husband, they love parasailing. I had never been, and I was going to go this time. And so we were very sad, but understandable that someone was having an emergency. And so it just was what it was. But so those types of excursions on Castaway were canceled. We did still have the Stingrays at 11:30, so we were still going to do that. So we got off the boat, around 9:45 and just went to the first kind of family beach area close to where you go to the Stingray excursion. So we could just walk over there and just enjoyed a beach day, just enjoyed the sand, and they were taking pictures of you with the photo folks. And so we just enjoyed that, played in the sand, and then went over to the Stingray excursion at 11:30. And you quickly feed the stingrays, which is cool experience for about maybe 10, 15 minutes. And then you can snorkel in that area where they are for the hour. So we stayed in there the whole time and snorkeled and petted the stingrays and looked at the fish and did all of that. So it was a great experience. If your kids like that stuff or you like that stuff, very cool. So after that, we were hungry. So we went over to Cookies for lunch and enjoyed the lunch over there. The one thing of note is we've been to Castaway Cay a couple of times on our Disney cruises. And the one thing they always had, because most of the food is food my son's not into. I mean, he'll eat like a hot dog bun. Was they had bags of Lay's potato chips. They did not have them this time. So he was upset. So they have changed the menu, and they did not have them. We've been to Lookout Key one other time and they didn't have them there either. So I had wished I had packed some as a part of the snacks I had brought onto the island as well. So I noted that for next time. But he was able to fill up on ice cream, so all was good. So then we just kind of took a leisurely lunch and we went back to the beach a little bit, and then we were done. And so we wanted to do some shopping. So we did some shopping there on the island, and then we headed back to the ship around 3:30. And we knew we were going to skip rotational dining again because we needed to be off the boat at 8 o'clock the next day to be picked up. And we needed to pack and have our luggage out by 10:30 in the hallway to be carried off the ship, which we wanted to do because we had so much luggage. So we just knew we were going to end up on the funnel, watching the funnel vision again with pool deck food. So we got back on the ship, we got cleaned up, and then we were like, we should go to the Haunted Mansion parlor one more time because it was so great. So about 4:15, we went down to the Haunted Mansion parlor for one last drink and just to enjoy that. And I actually stepped out to go to the restroom about 4:45, and I noticed the line forming for the show that night, which was Beauty and the Beast, which I think is on another ship as well, that plays on another ship, but the line was already forming very long for Beauty and the Beast, and I was like, "Oh my goodness." So we had planned to go to the 6 o'clock show. So I went back in and I told my husband, "We gotta wrap this up and get in line because the line is forming." And he was like, "Oh my goodness." So we go ahead and leave about 5:10, excuse me, and get in line for the show for Beauty and the Beast and waited the 40 minutes, got in, got the seat we wanted. My husband has a bit of a bum right knee, and so he likes to sit on the end because he's tall, so he can stretch his knee out because he's
Mhm.
cramped because he's tall, so he needs to be able to stretch his knee out. So we know this and we get places early so we can have the spot that we want. And of course, Disney tells you there's no saving seats. All your party has to be there. Well, that is very loosely adhered to. People just ignore that, frankly. I adhere to it, but no one else does, it seems. But we had gotten our spots. And so it was very full in Beauty and the Beast. So there was a seat. We were on the end, the three of us. Then there was a seat, and then it was full all the way there, down. And so the cast members are trying to just fill in every available seat. And so this very nice cast member came up to us and said, "Could you please scoot in one seat?" And I looked at him and I said, "No." I said, and he was like, "Well, we have to fill in every available seat, and somebody coming late could have that seat." And I go, "Well, they could have stood in line for 40 minutes and gotten the seats they wanted, so they can walk past me and have this seat." He's like, "But he kind of argued with me, "They're gonna obstruct your view." And I said, "I don't care." And then I was annoyed. And so my husband said, "Hey, I have a bum knee and I would like to sit here so I can stretch my knee out." So at that point, he was still kind of giving us a hard time, and the lady next to us was like, "Oh my goodness." So I stood up and I moved my son and I over to the empty seat, and I left a seat between my husband and my son and I. And the cast member's like, "Oh my gosh, you don't have to do that. You don't need to be separated from your family." And I said, "Well, I'm just trying to follow your rules." Meanwhile, 2 rows down, there was a woman saving 10 seats with nobody in there, and I was a little frustrated by that. I was like, "You're kind of missing the point here." So,
There and your one empty seat is not likely to have somebody volunteer to sit there.
no one came, shockingly, to sit in the
Oh, what a
seat.
surprise. How was the show?
This show was really good. We'd not seen a Beauty and the Beast show and really enjoyed it, so
Mhm.
it was a great show. Loved it. So after that, we went down to the pool deck and watched the funnel vision, or went up to the pool deck, I should say, and watched the funnel vision and ate the pool deck food again, and then went back to our room pretty early so we could get organized and packed up so that we could get our luggage out by 10:30 and be ready to get off the ship. You got to be off the ship by 8 o'clock. You can choose to do the morning rotational dining breakfast, but we wanted off the ship because we were heading to our resort at Walt Disney World and to the parks and all that. So we just opted to just be off the ship at 8 o'clock, and our private transportation was picking us up at 8:30. I did send so that night or the night before, they do leave little envelopes in your stateroom for extra tips for your stateroom host and your dining team. So I did send my husband out to rotational dining, just to say we kind of tell them we were going to be skipping a lot because it was just taking too long. But we did go ahead and do some. I don't think it was our servers' fault. I think it was a structural issue. So we did tip them, but I sent my husband to give that to them during the dining time so we
Mhm.
could then get packed up. So
So even though you weren't dining, he made a quick appearance.
he did. Yes. And they were like, "Do you want us to like pack some, desserts up for you or anything?" And I was like, "No, we've had so much food. No more food."
So you had your bags out in time.
We got our bags out in time, so we kept 2 small suitcases with us so we could have all our stuff in the morning, but we put the big ones with all the things in them out for so that it would be in the port for us.
All right. And then the next morning you were off the ship by 8?
Yes, so they give you those tags and they want to call you by the character for when you're supposed to start the debarkation process off the ship. And we were just hanging out in our room. I had ran up and gotten the buffet has some limited options. You can go pick up like continental breakfast. So I'd gotten that and we were just kind of hanging out in the room. And I'd been on a couple other cruises where by 8 o'clock, they'd had everybody pretty much called, but they were not calling us. And I was like, we got to go. We're going to have to go because our transportation is picking us up. So even though I don't like to break the rules, they had not called us, but we went ahead and got off the ship and there was no issue. We just went right there and grabbed a porter to help us with our luggage there at the terminal and then got on our private transportation back to Orlando.
So even though they hadn't called your group yet, your luggage was available to
It
pick up.
was all there. Yep, it looked like every bit of luggage was still out there. That was my concern, but it didn't end up being an issue, thankfully.
Okay, so then you took your private transport to the Boardwalk Inn.
Yes. So we took our private transport to Boardwalk Inn, and as we got closer, I'd gotten a little notice that our room wasn't ready. We had gotten the one bedroom villa. And I think a cast member had told me some other time that usually the villas are not available till 4 o'clock or after. So I had no hopes of. I thought, well, we'll just put our luggage with Belle, and then we had an 11:15 lunch reservation at Beaches and Cream over at Beach Club, and we would just go have lunch and either do stuff at the resort or go to Disney Springs or do something. But as I'm standing there, I just went to the front desk to check in as just to see. As I'm standing there, she says to me, "Your room isn't ready." But then all of a sudden, like in a second, it tells us our room is ready. And so I was really delighted that at 9:45 in the morning, our room was ready. So
That's
that was
really early.
exciting. So we did go up to our room, drop off all of our luggage, kind of get a little bit settled. We wanted that larger room for the three of us because of a washer and dryer, which we desperately needed. And honestly, it was great having that extra room. I told my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, what have we done? It's going to be so hard to go back to a
Well,
regular.
especially because you were just in a single stateroom on a cruise ship for a week, so it felt like
Yes.
a mansion.
It did. It really did. So we had like a pool garden view. So we looked out on the community hall and the quiet pool there, and we're kind of right next to the river, which ended up being a great location for us to we were on the fourth floor. We could just go down the stairs actually and just get out of our building. And it was a great location for us.
Yeah, that is nice. And the boardwalk villas are on the end opposite of Epcot. So,
Correct.
right at the
Yeah.
opposite. So it's actually pretty convenient for Hollywood Studios in a way.
It really is for sure. Even though we weren't going to Hollywood Studios, I'll mention this later. I ended up I wanted to see. So one night I walked from the villas to Hollywood Studios just to see what it was like because I'd never done it. And I was like, it is literally right there. I mean, we could see the top of the Tower of Terror from our room. So
Mm.
yeah.
So your room was available very early, and then was there anything before your beaches and cream lunch?
So we did go ahead and find the character scavenger hunt character, which is Goofy there, and you go down to the community hall by the quiet pool, and that community hall is full of arcade games and all kinds of things to entice a 9-year-old. So we ended up in there for a little while, and then we got our Goofy scavenger hunt pin so that we could make sure we were going to be able to get all of his stickers because if you complete the scavenger hunt, you do get a little small prize. And so we were going to be able to do that. So we did that and then it was time then for us to make our way over to the beach club. I'm pulling my notes up here. Hang on, my phone.
While
There
you're
we go.
pulling your notes up, you said your 9-year-old, and you said in the pre-trip he was 8 and turning 9 during the trip. So that's his actual birthday was the next day?
It was the 21st,
The 20 okay, 2
actually.
d oh, I see it,
2 days.
21st, okay.
The
So we'll talk about his
21st.
birthday on the
Yeah.
21st.
So we decided because of course it's super hot. We decided we'll just take the boat over to Beach Club. We'll just cross the lake and we won't walk it, even though it's not really that far. But we decided it's fun to take the boat. So we took the boat over to Beach Club and we just kind of walked right over to Beaches and Cream. We'd never been to Beaches and Cream. We checked in the 20 minutes early because we were a little bit ahead and we really just got right in. And so we had a great meal at Beaches and Cream. The I had a grilled ham and cheese sandwich. I did not get the tomato soup with it, but I did have that. It was delicious. Ice cream was delicious. A couple of families in there got the kitchen sink, so that was fun for my son to see people trying to complete that challenge. And a mother and a daughter who were doing it were so close. I could not believe they ate that much. It was very impressive.
That's a lot. My gosh.
I would have been in a coma. It was so much. So after that, we decided we had flying fish reservations about 5:45 that evening, but I asked my son what he wanted to do. Did he want to go back to Boardwalk and swim and do the slide and all that, or what did he want to do? And he said, "I want to go to Disney Springs because he wants kyber crystals that are part of those holocrons." Because he got in a holocron when he was there before, and now he wants all the kyber crystals. And he knew with his birthday that we would be putty in his hands to get him these things. So he's like, let's go to Disney Springs. So we were going to take a minivan to Disney Springs. But then had a fairly long wait. So we ended up just getting an Uber Black from the boardwalk and Ubering over there. Cause our thought was, cause it was so hot, that we would end up where they drop off. Is it the west side that they're dropping off the Ubers and everything?
They do it. They drop off on either end.
Do they? Okay. Well, we ended up, I think it's on the west side, and then we would walk towards those shops that have those things he wanted, and then we would end up over by Swirls on the Water because he said, let's have Dole Whip. We haven't had any Dole Whip. And then we would get an Uber from over on that side when we were done. So, and my husband went to go to Tommy Bahama because he loves the Disney Tommy Bahama shirts. So we did shopping. So we got Kyber crystals and Tommy Bahamas and Dole Whip. I tried watermelon Dole Whip, which I love the pineapple, but I liked the watermelon a lot too. So that was fun. So we just enjoyed an afternoon at Disney Springs. And then we ended up getting a minivan, was I think too long or something, but we ended up just Ubering back to Boardwalk around maybe 4:30 so that we could get ready for the Flying Fish dinner. And we'd never been to Flying Fish, and I had read that you were supposed to have kind of more elevated attire aside from park attire, which ended up not being the big deal. A lot of people were walking in there straight from the parks in their shorts and tank tops, but we got a little more dressed up because we'd had our cruise dress up clothes. So we did get a little dressed up, and we went about 5:45 to Flying Fish. We had a very great server cast member experience. I would say the food was not our favorite. We probably won't go back there. My husband got the red snapper cooked in the potato, which is kind of their signature fish thing. And he said it seems like a very cool idea and the presentation is outstanding, but the actual food was not fantastic. So he didn't love it. I got a New York strip steak. I'm not a huge fish person. And then my son got plain pasta, which he said was great. And then they had a really cool dessert for kids. It was these 3 mini little ice cream cones that had basically like frosting in them of different flavors. And they served it in like a little dish that was full of crystal sugar. And so he thought that was outstanding as well.
Nice.
So we did that. We had the dinner, and my steak was fine. It wasn't anything. I mean, the ambiance in there is very nice and lovely. But then afterwards, we didn't have dessert. My son did. So we did walk over to the Boardwalk ice cream shop and end up having a little bit more dessert there. He had some more ice cream, and then we had some dessert as well. And then we basically called it a night. So we knew we were going to Legoland the next day and needed to be ready to be picked up at 8:30. So it's time to go back.
You knew you were.
Yeah,
At what point did your son find out?
So when we went back to the resort, I had a card a birthday card with a gift card for Legos in there. And I just said to him, "We have a surprise for you." He's like, because he was like, "What are we doing tomorrow?" Because I told him on his actual birthday we would be in Epcot, but he was like, "What are we doing tomorrow?" And so I gave him that, and we told him he's going to Legoland. So he was so excited, so excited. So
Okay. All right. So you surprised him the night before.
we did.
And then on actual Sunday, July 28th is when you went and you said 8:30 pickup.
Yes. So we had private transportation to drive us because Legoland's about 45 minutes south of Orlando in Winter Haven, Florida. And I didn't really think that through. It was a Sunday morning, so traffic was very light at that time. And so it really didn't, it took us the least amount of time to get there. So we got there like 40 minutes it took us. So Legoland doesn't open till 10 o'clock in the morning. So they have their hotel there. So we just sort of wandered into the hotel to take a look around, which was great because if you're a Lego enthusiast, there's all these life-size Legos and a pirate ship, and we just sort of to stay out of the heat because it was very hot. And people
Mhm.
were lining up at the entrance to already to get into Legoland, to basically rope drop Legoland, but I thought, I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal, so we're gonna hang out in this cool hotel and look around to save ourselves some heat. So about 10 minutes before 10, we did walk over there and get in the line. Legoland has an app. It is not as robust as the Disney My Experience app. It does have wait times and you can buy the tickets and stuff. And I had pre-purchased tickets because you can find deals online, like an adult ticket for and get a free kid ticket, which I'd gotten. I'd also went ahead and bought their fast pass for extra, which is quite pricey. I and I'll talk more about that later. And then I bought their photo package as well because I'm all about the photos. So I went all in on Legoland. I do have some feedback on that. But so we got in line. They were pre-scanning you and stamping your hand. You're very spoiled by Disney being ultra modern. Legoland is like a step back to, 2001 a little bit. So I sort of knew that, but still you're spoiled by Disney. So you wait in line, you get in. The crazy thing is, here we bought this expensive fast pass. And so what you have to do is you get your pass in, but then you have to go stand as the fast pass person in another line to go get a wristband. So everyone else is already getting to go towards rides, but you have to stand in another line to get the dang wristband. So we get the wristband and then we go across over to get a stroller because I just knew with the heat my son would need a lift. So they have similar strollers to what Disney offers. And then the photo people are there. And like their photo is not seamless experience like Disney spoils you. And so we were trying to figure out how to make that happen too. So by the time all that happened and we were in right when it opened, we did not ride our first ride till almost 10:40. That's
Mm.
how long it took. So that was frustrating. My son was like, "I just want to ride some rides and do the Lego stuff." But I was like, "We have to figure this out." So we ended up walking to the back of the park and we really at that time, I mean, there was a lot of people, but once you got into the park, which is substantially smaller than anything that Disney has by a lot, there were no waits anyways. We really didn't even need the fast pass at that point because the crowds were nothing, You're just like, "Wow, this is crazy." It felt crazy. So we went straight to the Ninjago stuff because he's a big Ninjago Lego person. So we went there. We were able to ride that ride back to back. So we rode the Ninjago ride. We rode another temple ride, like, just very similar, kind of those little cars where they're video interactive or shooting games, sort of like the Buzz Lightyear stuff, all Lego themed. So we got that done. We did the Lego driving school, which is kind of cool. They drive little cars, and it's just for the kids. They drive little cars in a Lego city with the Lego
Mhm.
people. And at the end, they give them a printed driver's license, which is precious. So that
Yes.
was great. They had been struck by lightning the week before in a big storm. So their very large coaster Saurus ride, which is their big roller coaster, was down, which was a bummer. And then some of their photo ride photo pass stuff didn't work because their system had been fried by the lightning. So that was a bit frustrating. And
Yeah.
their photo pass thing is not seamless. So it's 2001 where you have to go up and scan the code to get it to go into your phone.
Mhm.
It's not an automatic system.
Okay.
So again, Disney spoils you with all this amazing automation and magic. We have Magic Band pluses. So I kept wanting to use it and I was like, oh, I don't have it doesn't work here. So that kudos to Disney making things easy. That's a win.
But their version of Fast Pass is called Fast Track, right?
Yes.
I think. Does it work like Universal's system where you can just go on any ride that offers it? Like, you don't have to book it,
Correct.
like
Yep,
Lightning
there's
Lane.
none of that.
It's
You
just
can
you
go on
walk up.
any walk up and there's a separate line for it. So you just have to look for the fast track entrance, walk right in, and you can ride it as many times as you want. So there's no limit on it. So if you were really gonna get into that, you could maximize it. I don't think we did just because we were not I think in our second or third time to Legoland, we could really figure out a strategy, but we just really didn't have a good strategy because we didn't know. So that is a perk. I mean, that is great, but it's expensive. So I don't think we utilized it enough to make it worth it. But
And it's interesting because I know the following day you were using Premier Pass, which is kind of a similar idea. So
yeah,
curious
for
which one
sure.
you felt had more value.
I think definitely Premier Pass, and I'll definitely talk about that. We had some lunch there. I mean, it's all park food.
Mm.
They have some cool stuff, like you can get some ice creams and little Lego heads and stuff. So, that stuff's cool if you're into Legos. The longest wait we had was the Lego movie ride, which is the virtual ride where I didn't ride it because I just had enough. I wanted to sit on a bench and have a moment. And so I sent the boys to ride it. And I think it's a 3D glasses one. And it's if you are familiar with the Lego movie, it has to do with the couch, Emmett and the rainbow couch and whatever. Anyways, that was the longest it took. It has quite a bit of pre-show, after show, something, and it took them a bit to ride that, probably 20 minutes because I thought, "Oh, it's like 3:40. Our ride's picking us up at 4:40. We have plenty of time." We didn't. We ended up booking it out of there at 4:20 and like our ride was pulling up. So we spent the whole day. My son said in a lot of ways, he loved it more than Disney, which broke my heart because he could get on the rides as many times as he wanted. And at Disney, it just isn't possible in the same way. So that Legoland does have that going for it. And you just had a lot of space. The amount of people there is so much less. I mean, it is amazing.
I
But
know a lot of people consider it a park for younger kids. So until your son's what age would you consider going there with him?
I think like 12. He
Mhm.
probably max out at 12. There were a couple rides that my husband was too tall to really get in the vehicle with him. So you do size-wise on some of them will size out of it too, but I think they say 12, and that seems about right. Not that you couldn't have fun there regardless, but yeah, they really only have a couple of roller coasters that are of any significance.
Okay.
And it just isn't as well maintained as Disney, it's just different. So you get spoiled by all of those things that Disney has to offer and how they care and maintenance things. It's just different. The one thing I learned, that gift card I gave my son so he could buy a Lego set because I knew there was no way we're leaving Legoland without a Lego set. And I couldn't use it at Legoland because I could use it at Disney Springs' Lego store, they told me, but I cannot actually use it at Legoland because Legoland is not owned by Lego, it's owned by the Merlin Group, and they don't honor those. So don't buy a Lego gift card and expect to use it at Legoland was a good lesson.
That is extremely annoying.
It
Like,
was.
if I heard that a family I knew was going to Legoland for a trip, I would be like, "You know what? A good gift might be a Lego gift card."
Yeah,
And that doesn't work.
it doesn't work. So we still have a Lego gift card because we'd already been to
Disney
Disney
Springs.
Springs and
Mhm.
we just went ahead and purchased the Legos that he had his heart set on anyways. So, but I was kind of trying to give him the experience of having the gift card and doing his own thing.
Yeah.
It didn't
Hmm.
work out. So,
Well,
we got picked up right at 4:30, which was great timing because it decided to rain a bunch and we got out of there without having to don our rain gear or anything. So the traffic was a little heavier on our way back, of course, at 4:30 in the afternoon into Orlando, plus the rain. I mean, it was raining pretty good. So it let up. I mean, by the time we got back to Boardwalk, it had mostly stopped raining, and we had dinner reservations around 6 o'clock at Tatria El Forno, if I'm saying
Hmm.
that correctly, which we'd been to before and really enjoyed. So we were all looking forward to that, having dinner there that evening. So we got cleaned up.
you're dining where you are.
Yeah, exactly. So we got cleaned up and went to dinner and had a lovely dinner. I had a delicious margarita pizza there. My husband had the lasagna. My son had, of course, a bowl of plain pasta and 1,000 pieces of bread. And then him and I shared a tiramisu, which was phenomenal there. So good. So we were full and we knew that we needed to be up early the next day to go to Epcot because we were trying to rope drop it as close as we could. So we got back to our room. We didn't swim or do anything because we were tired from our Legoland experience.
You were out all day for that.
Yes.
So
So,
the next day was Monday, July 21st, your son's actual birthday.
yes. So I had So the morning that we were embarking on our cruise, I had went on at 7 a.m. and bought Premier Pass for all the parks we were going to be at. So Epcot, Magic Kingdom, and Animal Kingdom. I didn't realize that if you were feeling like spending that kind of dough, you could also purchase single passes for those rides. So if you wanted to ride Tron or Guardians or Seven Doors Mine Train, you could buy a single pass as well. And Avatar at Animal Kingdom. So we ended up doing that for several rides so that we could ride the favorites like that twice. Now, it's an investment. I mean, you kind of have to be prepared for that. It's a lot of money, but we really wanted to test it out because we wanted to save, time and to be able to not walk so much and get so exhausted. So we did that the week before. So we were ready with our Premier Pass and some of the single pass for Guardians for Epcot. My son, he went to sleep and he was sleeping out on the Murphy bed that's in the area, but I had packed some decoration, some Disney Mickey Mouse themed decorations, even though he will tell you he's too old for that. In the right setting, he's fine with it. So I
He
had also,
he's at
we had
that age where he starts thinking he's too grown.
exactly. I'm like that. I told him, I said, the picture with you hugging Donald Duck like he's your long lost pal, I said, would make me think that you still are okay with Disney. So we had packed some decorations. I had packed a card with a Disney World gift card in it. So he would have some spending money to choose a gift on his actual birthday. And then we had done a grocery order. I forgot to mention that got delivered the day before from Publix. So we'd have water, some more snacks that my son would eat, some milk and stuff like that. And then also I had some cupcakes from Publix. So he would have some fun cupcakes as part of that. So we snuck around and decorated the room so that when he woke up, he would be surprised. And he was delighted and surprised. So we were up pretty early, about 6:15. We were up getting ready so that we could walk out of the room because our intent was to take the boat to save ourselves walking and heat. We are going to try to use all the transportation. So we were going to board the boat and take it over to Epcot, even though it's not very far of a walk. So we did swing by the front desk for the birthday button. I had chatted in the My Disney Experience app a couple of weeks prior and asked them because I'd seen it somewhere that you could have the TV that says welcome your family say happy birthday to a family member. And they told me they couldn't do it, but I could go to the desk and they would be able to do it. Well, that's not exactly accurate. It actually has to be, according to them, set up when the reservation is set up. So they couldn't do it on the TV. So I didn't know that. So, and neither did the chat people apparently know that either. So learn that. But we got the button. We stopped by the Carousel Coffee in the boardwalk to grab I needed an iced coffee, and they have some really great little sugar cookies there they have going right now with Mickey on them that my son loves. So I let him have a sugar cookie for breakfast too, since it was his birthday. And so we were on the boat for Epcot at 8:01, which ended up being later than I wanted to be, but it is what it was. And so we got on the boat at 8:01. We were off the boat at 8:06, and we stopped to get a double stroller there as well. And so we got the stroller, and security and everything was smooth, got the stroller, and then we were in line for Soarin' at 8:23. So that's my son's favorite ride. So we actually didn't we weren't going to go to the lightning lane. We were going to try to ride it twice. So we would save our premier pass so that we could have a Soarin' experience twice. So we were in the line, and we were walking into the standby queue at 8:28. And of course, it had a line of people, but no wait basically at rope drop. And then we were off of it about 8:56 in the morning. So it went fairly quick. We were in the second grouping, so we didn't get in the very first grouping, which had been my original goal, but we were right there. So my plan was we were going to stay in that area because we had Garden Grill breakfast reservations at 9:40. And so we were just going to use our Premier Pass to stay in that area and then hit Garden Grill and then move on towards Guardians. So that's exactly what we did. We jumped on Living with the Land. Of course, at 9 o'clock, it has no wait. So we enjoyed Living with the Land. And then we got off and we went ahead and checked in mobily for Garden Grill at 9:21. And we were sat by 9:26. So we were early in our reservation. Ended up never been to the Garden Grill, ended up loving it. It's cool that it rotates, which you don't really even notice. It's so slow and subtle. The character interactions, I mean, Mickey in his farmer outfit's adorable. Of course, we love Chip and Dale and Pluto, and it was the fastest character dining I've had. So that was a bonus because I was a little worried we were going to be spending a lot of precious time there. The food was great. The breakfast food was great. The cinnamon bread, the hash brown casserole, the Mickey waffles, the steak. You get steak with it. It's all very good. We were sat down at 9:26 and we were leaving by 10:05, and we'd seen every character and pictures and everything.
That is a crazy difference to your cruise dining.
It was fantastic.
But your son also found some things to like there as well.
Yes, he loves Mickey waffles. So if all else fails, he'll eat Mickey waffles. So
that's easy enough.
It's easy. So then we decided we would go get on Figment real fast since we were right there too. So we jumped on Figment, and we ended up using our Premier Pass for Figment because we knew we probably weren't going to ride it again. So I was like, we just bought this Premier Pass. We need to be riding it because we didn't use it with Living with the Land because we could just walk right on it anyways. So we got on Figment at 10:23. It had no wait anyways, but we used the Premier Pass. We got off at 10:33, and we actually just stayed in the Figment after area for a bit because my son wanted to make a little Figment character, and so we let him do that. And then we walked over to the Seas Pavilion about 10:46. They were having some waits at that time, so it was like 25, 35 minutes for the two things there, for the Nemo ride and Turtle Talk with Crush. So we used our Premier Pass. We got on Nemo's ride at 10:51, and then we got on Turtle Talk right at 11, or into the show right at 11. So it was very quick. I mean, we were quickly moving through things. We took a photo pass right there in front of the Seas Pavilion signs as well. And then we looked at the sea creatures when we were done with both the show and the ride. This is the first time we'd never been on the Nemo ride or in Turtle Talk with Crush. So or seen the animals up there. So that was great. I did let my son sit in the very front on the floor with all the kids for the Turtle Talk show. And it didn't even occur to me. I mean, it's a lot of people in that room. And he's used to being able to do that from school settings, but we had to sit way in the back and I couldn't see him. And my husband was like, "You're about to have a panic attack about this." I'm like, "I am, because I didn't tell him, stay right where you are. We'll just come get you." He's going to get up in the sea of people. So I said to my husband, "You're going to have to jump all these benches and get him, because he's going to get lost from us. So I did not enjoy it because I was panicked from not giving him good instructions. My husband got him. He stood up and kind of stood there and saw my husband. So it all ended up working out okay. But if you go into that ride, make sure you have a plan so you don't lose track of your kid. So it's a lot of people and easy to do. So we walked over to Moana's area and went through that. So the Way of the Water, or I can't remember exactly what it's called, but we went through that. My son had never been in there. We're big Moana people, so that was fun. They were doing photo passes with Fidi at the end, so we got some great photo passes with her in the picture, so that was fun. We then left there and went over to Spaceship Earth at 11:50 and got in with our Premier Pass and walked off at 12:05. The standby line was long at that point. I bet it was 35 to 45 minutes, and we just got right on and off. The funny thing that happened in that was I sat with my son in the ride and my husband sat behind us. He fell asleep, and he was so asleep that he almost stayed on it to ride again. Like he was asleep and we just got off and started walking away, and I realized he's sound asleep, and the cast members like I was like, "Oh my goodness." So that was kind of funny. So then we took a quick bathroom break kind of towards the front of the park, headed towards Guardian. And my son has ridden Guardians once and he won't ride it again. He said it was too intense for him, but it's our favorite roller coaster. So we were going to take turns riding it. And so my son and I went into Connections and just found a table and we're going to have some snacks. It's because it's around like 12:20. Even though we'd had a later breakfast, we could have a snack and a Diet Coke. So we were going to get a table. We were going to get a table there. So we ended up actually walking to Guardians with my husband, who got in the Lightning Lane line. And then we went to the gift shop because my son wanted to use his gift card to buy an Aether thing they're selling there from that universe. I don't know. We got it. It's a little lantern thing with a crystal. So he would have something to mess with while we sat. So we did that. And it took my husband about 40 minutes in the Lightning Lane to get all the way through Guardian. So it took longer than I thought it would, but the line was 65 minutes at that point in standby. He was hoping he would get the Everybody Wants to Rule the World song, which is our favorite, but he got One Way or Another was his song, if anybody cared about that. He came to Connections and sat down to take a minute and have a snack, and I went to go use my Guardians pass. So I got in at 1:06. I got in the Lightning Lane at 1:06, and I was off at 1:48. So it was taking about 40 minutes in the Lightning Lane, which felt like a while.
All
So
those pre-shows.
all the pre-shows, right? Just takes a bit. I sat with 3 teenagers that were I was in their single rider in their car, which was fine. My husband ended up sitting next to a young kid when he rode it who was having a hard time. They had a bigger family, and she was the oldest kid, so she had to ride alone next to the stranger. My husband is really good with kids and people, and so he's like, I could tell she was freaking out. So we had a screaming contest, so he was so good to like help her through it. And he said the dad stopped me to thank me for helping her because they were a little worried. He goes, but she was shaking. She was that scared. And I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I'm glad she had you to help her through that.
It's tricky for families where the kids outnumber the parents, though, because the seat
Yes.
configuration often does leave one kid alone.
Exactly. So then we walked over and started going into the international area, the World Showcase. And so my son had never been on Grand Fiesta Tour. And of course, he loves Donald Duck. So we got on, it was walk on. So we walked on and we were the only people in our boat, which was crazy. Because it's it was busy. It felt busy, but it wasn't apparently that busy. So we got on. Then we took a bathroom break in Norway for those best bathrooms. And then we jumped on Frozen at 2:18. And so it had about a 45, 50-minute wait at that time, but we walked right on within 5 minutes and we're off really quick. We walked a bit and got a Dole Whip kind of in that Africa stand there where they have Dole Whip. So they had the cherry pineapple that we love. So we had a Dole Whip. And then we were in Germany, and I cannot pass Germany without going into Caramel Kusha because I got to have a caramel butter bar. So I went and boys went and sat on a table, and I went in, and it had a decent line. And I realized I could have mobile ordered, but I sometimes like to peruse my options. So I just got in the line, and it was moving pretty quick. And I got a butter bar, and then I thought I should try something else here. And so I tried the snickerdoodles with the frosting and caramel in the middle of it. I love the butter bar. I didn't care for the snickerdoodle sandwich. It wasn't my favorite. So, I mean, I ate most of it. I wasn't going to let it go to waste, but I was like, I could take it or leave it. So, because we had so many packages from the Legos we'd purchased my son, and now this giant Aether cube that there's no way we're going to be able to fly home with this stuff. My husband had said, he can't ride Remy because he doesn't, the 3D glasses and that movement gives him motion sickness. I love it. My son loves it. So he said, you guys walk on and go ride Remy's. I'm going to go back to Boardwalk, get all the stuff we need to ship home before 5 o'clock and walk it over to Beach Club, or Yacht Club, where they have a business center. And I'm going to get that stuff shipped home. So we're not trying to worry about their limited hours and stuff like that. So we walked on to Remy, and we got on like probably, I don't know, close to maybe 3 o'clock. We're in the line. We're almost to get in our little mouse car, and the ride goes down. So my husband's already gone on to go do his thing. So everyone makes a giant sigh, and people just start kind of sitting down in the line. So it had a massive, I mean, at that point in the day, it still had like a crazy line, 75 minutes for standby. So my son sat down, we were just kind of chatting with people, and then maybe 3 minutes later, it's back up. So we lucked out, we got on Remy's, and we were back at the Boardwalk Hotel by 3:50. So got on Remy's, got off. We did stop because we knew we were coming back that evening for a dining reservation at Space 220 for his birthday about 8:30. So I stopped to drop the stroller off, and I had purchased 3 days worth of stroller rental because you get $4 off a day if you pre-purchase the stroller. And she had said there was no double strollers there when I went by the International Gateway stroller thing. And she said, are you coming back tonight? Because if you are, leave your tag in here, and I'm going to put the stroller in the back because otherwise you might not have one when you come back. And I was like, oh, I've never had that happen. So they took it and reserved it for us. And they asked what time we'd be back. And I said, probably around 6:30, because our plan was take a break at the boardwalk, get my husband, and then come back so that we could ride Soarin' on our Premier Pass and then go on to Space 220 for dinner. So
That was nice of her to ask.
yes, I thought so too, because I just wouldn't have even thought about it. So
And did your son like having that stroller option?
yes, it's just so hot and a lot of walking, and he does like to ride in the stroller. And luckily, he's still probably maybe next year he might be grown out of it, at least lengthwise. You can have a kid up 100 pounds in the double strollers. So he's still got a lot of weight, but I just think he's willing to curl himself in there, not to have to walk 30,000 steps too. So I saw a lot of older kids in them later in the day.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. That's probably why they have a shortage of double strollers.
Exactly.
So you had a break at the hotel.
Took a break at the hotel, and then we got back on the boat to Epcot about 6:15, and we got in through we had a little bit of a slow time at security. My son had wanted me to bring the Kyber crystals that he'd gotten at Disney Springs in my backpack, and I didn't even think about pulling them out and holding them out in front of me, and I didn't, and that caused me to have to get searched. And there was a good amount of line as people were coming in for the evening. And so it kind of put us behind because I had to wait to be searched, and realizing it was those dang Kyber crystals that caused that. So I noted that for the future. But we made it over to Soarin' at 6:50, and we used our Premier Pass. We were in the queue where David Puddy, or the guy who does the pre-show. I always think of him as David Puddy from Seinfeld, but that guy, he's talking, and all of a sudden everything goes down. And I'm like, oh no. And of course it went down. And so it broke and we waited there, and then they decided it wasn't coming back up and they were going to move us. We were in C loading area to B. So we all moved to B, and so by the time we made it, it was 7:20 over there, and we were then off the ride at 7:30. So it did kind of slow us down because I thought, well, we could also maybe ride Living with the Land again or something that we still had a Premier Pass for on our way over to Space 220, but we ran out of time really. So we had an 8:30 reservation at Space 220. So we made our way over there and got checked in. You can't mobile check in for Space 220. You have to go up to the kiosk. That is confusing to people, and they often cut in line not realizing it's a line to check in, which angers many people. So that was happening a lot. There was some confusion. We eventually made it in there. We're waiting to go up the elevator to space, and everything was fairly smooth. It did take about 25 minutes past 8:30 before we got seated. So we got in there, got by the big space window, which you think that's really cool. You're right next to the window. It's actually better to be back because you can't see the window when you're right up to it. The graphics don't look the same. So noted that for the future. We'd never had dinner there. We had once had lunch there. So they have a whole different dinner scheme going on. So we had dinner there. And all throughout my son's birthday, he's wearing the birthday button. He had been pixie dusted a lot. So by various cast members. And of course, everyone's telling him happy birthday, which was amazing. At the Garden Grill, they gave him a little dessert with a candle and a happy birthday. We ended up being in the front of almost every ride car. I was like, is this coincidence? At first I thought it was just coincidental, but it seemed like they were spacing us to put us in a good spot. And I assumed it was because of the button. So that was cool. At Space 220, they gave him he had chocolate ice cream, I think, as his dessert. So they put a little happy birthday and chocolate on it with a little chocolate piece and a candle and lit it and the whole bit. It was very lovely, and gave him extra collecting cards. Space 220 has collector cards you can get. They gave him all of the packs of them. So that was very nice of them. So we had a good dinner at Space 220, but we were very tired when we left. And so we probably didn't get back till 10:15. I mean, the fireworks were way done, which was okay because we are not huge fireworks people. And there's also a song in, what's it called? Illuminations? Luminous. There's that song from Toy Story 2 where where a character gets left by her kid. And I hate that song because of that. Because I think that's the saddest thing ever. And they play that in that show. And ever since I was like, I can never see that show again because it makes me too sad.
So your dinner was a lot like your cruise dinner.
Yes.
And so you got back very late. So before we move on to the next day, did you think Premier Pass at Epcot was worth it for you?
Yes. Man, it cut down on, we had so much more energy and were able to make it to 10:15 because we were able to stay in the air conditioning in that Living with the Land Seas pavilion, for most of the morning. I mean, the whole morning up until we went to Connections and over to Guardians, we were basically just in air conditioning. So that was a huge benefit because we could just stay in the area versus traversing back and forth across the park, which is what we would normally do with multi-pass.
Yep. And most people do.
Yes. So it was worth it for that reason for sure.
All right. Well, let's see how it worked at Magic Kingdom because the next day was Tuesday, July 22nd, and you had plans all day for Magic Kingdom.
Yes. So we knew Magic Kingdom was going to be busier as the day went on because of the new nighttime parade, right? And we wanted to not be there during the nighttime parade because these first few days, people are just they little bit lose their mind about it. And you have to have, you have to just have the right mindset for those kinds of experiences. And with my 9-year-old, he doesn't love parades. And we just weren't all in the mindset. So our goal was to get away from that before it occurred. And then maybe someday down the road, when everyone's not losing their mind over it, experience it.
I
And I
was
listened
there.
to some of your trip reports. So,
Yeah, the Patreon updates were wild. Like we did lose our patience with the crowds.
right. So I felt very justified in my decision that I must leave before the Starlight Parade based on listening to your stuff on the go. So it was the right decision for us. So because we were so tired, we did not end up rope dropping Magic Kingdom like we should have, which ended up causing us some pain and suffering in the beginning. So we got a minivan just to because we were running later. So we didn't leave our lobby till 7:57, which you're not going to be able to really rope drop in essence, which wouldn't have mattered with the Premier Pass, but we were just trying to get going before the heat of the day. And because it was predicted to rain pretty good later in the day. So we had a great minivan driver, and if you use a minivan, you get right up close as your drop off. So there's your motivation to use a minivan. Plus they're great. So we got dropped about 8:25, and then we get in the line for security, and they don't have enough security. It is wow, it's the worst I've ever seen it. And I mean, we'd been there on some holidays and stuff, and it was crazy. People were already losing their patience and mind. And I was like, oh no. So my husband routinely gets flagged by security at Magic Kingdom for whatever reason. I mean, we do all the things. We hold the umbrellas out, we take everything off. I mean, short of stripping down and throwing everything he tries everything, but I get through security, son gets through security. After we waited probably 20 minutes to get through security, he gets flagged and the line for searching is massive. So I said to him, and the guard had said, it's your fanny pack that needs to be searched, which he had held out. He took off and held up so and so later he tells me they didn't even search my fanny pack. I stood in that line and they didn't search anything. So he was a little frustrated with that. So he said, we'd already made a plan. If he got stopped by security, I was to go on and get the stroller, and we'd meet up at the confectionery because my son loves the confectionery. So we just go there and meet up. So we get the stroller about 8:45. We go into Main Street Confectionery and get some treats to have for later. He finally makes it out about 9 o'clock from the security line. So it was a long thing there.
That's really long.
It was. We got our Main Street photo that we like to get about 9:03 from a photo pass person, and we were entering in Tomorrowland about 9:05. We were booking it over because our plan was to start our Premier Pass at Tomorrowland, kind of make our way back towards Seven Dwarfs because we were going to ride it back to back because we had the Premier Pass and we'd bought a single pass. We also had 2 rides for my husband on Tron. So we just kind of make our way all the way around the park that way from Tomorrowland. And that was with the thought that at first we were going to be there early enough that the Tomorrowland rides would be what was open. In the end, we could have went the opposite way because Adventureland was open by the time we made it down Main Street. So we went to Monsters Inc. Laugh 4 first because we'd never been there, and we used our Premier Pass there. I was able to text while we were waiting in the queue a joke, and they did read my son's joke, although I got a bit of it wrong, and so he was frustrated with me. But I was panic texting, trying to get it in there so it would register, and I messed it up a bit. But he did get his name said, so that was
I'm
good.
glad they did it. Sometimes I think that they just read jokes. It has nothing to do with what was actually just texted, but yours worked.
It worked. So they said his name and that he was from Kansas, and it was great. So we were on Buzz Lightyear at 9:51 and out by 10 a.m. And none of those rides really had any waits at this point. Still, there was it was walk-ons basically. So we really could have used standby, but we knew we wouldn't come back through. So we just used the Premier Pass. We love the People Mover. So about 10 o'clock, we got on the People Mover, and then my husband's single pass, for Tron was available. So he went on to Tron, and my son and I got back on the People Mover. So we got back on the People Mover to ride it again. And then we got off about 10:20. No, the second time at 10:30. And then we went to get some popcorn, and we tried the cinnamon bread at the launching pad and just kind of had a break. So then my husband texted and said, I'm already through Tron first, so now I'm going to use my Premier Pass on Tron because my son also will not ride Tron. He's just not ready for that. He's not even tried it yet. The motorcycle thing scares him. So my husband was like, I'm going to get back on and ride it again. So he basically rode Tron back to back and was off by about 11:05. So that was nice. The line for that was very high at that point. It was 75 minutes, I think. So we did a little shopping. I went into Star Traders, got some pennies that we hadn't had, some pressed pennies, and then we made our way over to Seven Dwarfs. So we used the Premier Pass for that. We got in the line at 11:13 and we were off at 11:25, and then we walked right back on and got in the line again because our single pass and our worked was at that time as well. And so then we were off about 11:35. So that was really quick, even though it was a long line for Seven Dwarfs again. So again, that one was, I think it was 60 minutes the first time we rode and 65 when we got off the second time.
Okay.
When I got off of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, there was a gentleman trying to get back on his scooter in the exit, and he lost control of his scooter and he ran into me, which luckily didn't knock me over or hurt me, but was startling to all of us. Like he was like, oh my, I was like, holy smokes, it was frightening. I was glad it was me he hit and not my kid because I think it would have knocked my son down. So if you're going to have a scooter, make sure you know how to manage that thing because it was wild for a minute. It was crazy.
Well, I assume most people that have ECVs don't usually have it. So everyone's just a novice. So
Exactly.
I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often.
I guess that's true, right? So we were all startled, but no one was injured. He did not. I was afraid if he hit me, he's gonna fall. Everyone was okay, but it just was unexpected. So we kind of laughed about that. And then we headed over to Gaston's area because they had a photo pass there in front of his statue, and they were also doing magic shots. So we did that. And then we made our way to Peter Pan. We'd never been on Peter Pan because every time we tried to ride it, the line was very long, or we would miss our multi-pass time for other reasons. So I said, we're going to get on Peter Pan this time. So we used our Premier Pass. We got on at 11:56 and we're off at 12:08. We walked over to Haunted Mansion from there. We got on with Premier Pass at 12:13 and walked off at 12:31, and that line was 45 minutes. So we were rocking and rolling. Haunted Mansion only stopped very briefly once, which I felt was a win because the last few times I'd been on it, we got stuck. So then we went to Memento Mori. We got a Starlight popcorn bucket. We checked in for our lunch reservation. We kind of made our way back up Main Street. We checked in for Tony's Town Square. We had lunch there.
I bet I can guess what your son ordered.
You got it, right? Plain pasta. We tried the bread, all that. It was good. It was very good. So then we took a break kind of over by the fire station in the city hall. I wanted to run to the restroom and it started to rain. So we were able to get under cover there by the restroom area. And we kind of hung out there for a minute till we could get all of our rain gear and our shoes changed so we would not get soaking wet. So we started walking over to Pirates about 2:20. So we went into Adventureland. We got on Pirates with our Lightning Lane Premier Pass at 2:44. We were off at 3:00, and by the time we came out, the rain was gone. So we took all the rain gear off. We headed to the Tiki Room. There was no wait for that. We got right in and right out. We stopped for a Dole Whip. We used Premier Pass to go. The boys went on the Aladdin ride. I don't like the spinning, so they did that. It took 3 minutes with the Lightning Lane for that whole experience. And then we went over to Country Bears because we'd never been on Country Bears. Or been to Country Bears, not even the old show. So we enjoyed that. My son was like, that was funny and weird. But my husband and I were into it. We liked the bears. So we were done with the bears at 4:23. We went quickly, we did backtrack a bit to go to the Hall of Presidents. Haven't been in there in years and years. We got over there at 4:30 and the next show didn't start till 5. And so we were like, forget it. We're out of here. So we left and did not get to see Hall of Presidents, which I was kind of sad about. We wanted our last ride to be Tiana's. Tiana's is my most favorite ride. Tiana's my favorite princess, my favorite Disney movie, my favorite ride. So the line for Tiana's at that time, it's super hot after the rain, is, very long. I think at least an hour, if not more. The line came all the way out the entrance, which I'd never seen before, like out to where you're walking in to hit your magic band. So we did a premiere pass, and so we got on at 4:38. We walked in the line at 4:38, and we were out by 5 o'clock. We stopped by the Critter Co-op to do a little shopping. I always like to check out the new Princess and the Frog merch, and then we headed out. We did get a minivan, and we had originally had said in our pre-trip that we were going to come back and eat dinner at the plaza at like 7:45, but with the parade and all of that, we just decided to end our day at Magic Kingdom. We canceled our plaza reservation and quickly made one for Ale and Compass at the Yacht Club. And we went in our minivan right to the Yacht Club, ate dinner, and then went back to the room after dinner so we could call it a night early.
I promise you that was much calmer than Magic Kingdom.
Right? Based on your reports, I felt good about that.
That's crazy.
So the pre-river pass worked so well that I did not complete my step goal or my exercise ring because we were so efficient. So the boys stayed back, and that's the night I walked to Hollywood Studios because I had to complete my walk for the day and everything. So it worked so well because normally I would clock 25 to 30,000 steps and hit my exercise ring, and I didn't. So it worked.
What's your step goal?
So my step goal is 11 to 12,000 a day every day.
And you didn't hit that at Magic Kingdom? Wow.
Nope.
Yeah, that is quite a testament from your pass because
It was crazy.
Lighting lanes, you definitely would have.
Yes. So I was like, oh my gosh, I feel unaccomplished. I don't have enough steps. I don't have my exercise ring closed on my watch. So I walked to Hollywood Studios and back, and that was fun because I listened to all your updates on the go while I walked.
Yeah. It's very meta. You're like listening to someone else talk about the place where I'm at.
Right?
Yeah, but that's wild. I guess if my math is correct, you were at Magic Kingdom for 9 hours or so.
Yep.
And you still didn't get all those steps in. Okay.
I didn't. We were just in short areas, so I didn't walk a lot.
Yeah. So it's safe to say that you thought the Premier Pass was worth it at Magic Kingdom?
At Magic Kingdom, yes, for sure. And probably Epcot, but Magic Kingdom for sure.
Okay. Let's find out about Animal Kingdom because the next day was Wednesday, July 23rd, and Animal Kingdom Day with Premier Pass.
Yes. So we wanted to get to Animal Kingdom early because we wanted to be back to our room fairly early because the next day we were flying home. So we walked out of our room at 7:12. We got a minivan. It took about a few minutes to get, and we arrived at Animal Kingdom about 7:54. So it had already opened, so we kind of missed that rush. So it was actually perfect. We missed the rush of all the rope droppers, but we're still early. So we took our first photo pass at the Tree of Life at like 7:59. So we got our stroller, got everything, got booking it. Our plan was to get our Tree of Life photo that I had to have and then head to Pandora. So we were going to go to Pandora and then go to Safari and around to Everest and then come back out.
Did you also buy single pass lighting lanes for this day?
I did. So my son loves that Avatar Flight of Passage ride. And so we did have it both. So our plan was to ride it back to back. So we were at Pandora at 8:13, walking into that area. We got a photo pass at 8:18. And we walked in for our premier pass of Flight of Passage at 8:21 and we're off by 8:45. So the standby line was crazy when we walked off. When you were going there, it wasn't as bad, but of course by 8:45, crazy. Super long. I mean, it was at least an hour wait. So then we decided to not just go right back onto Flight of Passage, but we went over to Navi River and we used our premier pass. So we got on at 8:51 and we're off at 9:05. And we walked back to Flight of Passage to use our other lane. And we got on we clicked in at 9:05. We got taken off the ride at 9:30 because it malfunctioned. So we were in the room getting ready to get on the Banshee and it malfunctioned. So they had to take us off and take us to a whole other area. So with all of that breaking down and reconfiguring, we were off at 9:47. Took a break in the gift shop of Pandora because my son really wanted one of the Banshee hatchlings. So we got a Banshee hatchling that then we had to take with us everywhere in this egg. So which was annoying, but we had it. So what are you going to do? We kind of took a little break and a snack. I've never been into Satuli Canteen. We just never have had time. And I thought with Premier Pass, this was going to be the moment. But because of the extra time it took with the breakdown at Flight of Passage, we had to go because we had a 10:45 Yak and Yeti dining reservation. So we ended up going to Everest, heading towards Everest to ride that. So we would be in the Yak and Yeti area. So we got on at 10:15. Yeah. We got off at 10:15. We went to Everest, got, I think, off at 10:15. It was about a 10-minute wait for us in the Premier Pass lines. And the standby line was still fairly short, maybe 30 minutes. It wasn't very long. We checked in for Yak and Yeti at 10:25 and were called right away. Like they were opening. So it was just waiting for them to finish opening. Had a good lunch there. Had never been to Yak and Yeti. So enjoyed the lunch there. I had the lettuce wraps. My husband had the snapper. My son had Go-Gurt and a bun, a plain bun. So Yak and Yeti's not his speed, but it was still good.
In the
We had
pre-swim that you had Tiffins.
Yes. So that was a change. I forgot about that. So we had used the mouse, one of the
Watcher?
apps, and it got us Yak and Yeti at 10:45. So we canceled the Tiffins maybe 2 days before we actually left for the trip and took the Yak and Yeti one because that's where we'd originally wanted to eat. So
okay, makes sense.
we ended up then after that going to Cali River Rapids and we walked on. It had a pretty good wait because it's pretty hot, but we used the Premier Pass, got on at 12:04. We're off by 12:30. We were walking. We did a little bit more back and forth than we intended, but we ended up walking back towards where I think it's the almond pour truck, the food truck where the Yeti ice cream is. My son wanted the Yeti ice cream. So we started walking from Cali River back that way to take a break. And that's when my husband got stung by a bee. So he got stung by a Disney bee. Luckily, it had flown between his eye and his sunglasses. Didn't sting him there, but when he went like that, it stung his finger. He's a bit allergic to stuff. So there was a moment where I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? We got a piece of ice from the drink cart that was right there. He put it on there. He got the stinger out. Everything ended up being okay, but he did get stung by a bee, which was crazy. We ate the sundae, then we walked over to Dinosaur. So I told my son, this is going away. This will be the last time we can probably ride it. So if you want to ride this, which it scared him last time, we should do it. Otherwise, that's it. And so he decided I can do it. I won't be scared this time. We have a great photo of him that they took during the ride where he looks absolutely petrified. It's hilarious. But we got on at 1:10 and we're off at 1:25. We stopped for a little bit of a snack because Flight of Passage had made my husband motion sick because it's like Remy with the 3D glasses, but he was trying to power through. But he told me that was the last time he was riding Flight of Passage after that. The last ride we did the safari. So we got on the safari at 1:45 and we got off of it at 2:15. We got to see the baby giraffe, the baby elephant. The animals were fairly active for it being a hot afternoon. So that was super great. We had a great time on the safari. We walked out of Animal Kingdom Park at 2:35. So we decided we'd had everything we were going to do. We got a minivan and we got back to Boardwalk about 3:45. So
did you think the Premier Pass is worth it at Animal Kingdom?
Probably not. Like if you rope dropped it and you went right to Flight of Passage, you could do the same thing and have minimal wait. So it probably wasn't. Now, if you wanted to just like go later when the ride times were much higher, specifically in Pandora, then maybe you'd have some value. I mean, it's the least expensive of the Premier Pass, but it's
Hmm.
still a hefty price. So I would say maybe if you had limited time, but like on a normal park day, probably not. You could be if you could book 7 days out with your multi-pass, you'd be fine. So,
And your son went on Expedition Everest and Flight of Passage? Is that true? Because I feel like it's not too much of a leap to go to Tron then.
it's the vehicle, right? The ride
Right, but
vehicle.
Flight of Passage feels similar, you
He was
know?
scared to do it the first time, but he realizes it's not a real roller coaster in the sense that you're leaving the ground in the same
Right.
way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's I guess going, at high speeds on that ride vehicle is a different level, but I have next time I bet he'll be able to do it.
I hope so. We've tried several times with Tron. He'll get up there. He sat on the bikes to test them out, the ones that are at the up by the entrance to Tron. He got in as far as kind of the pre-show one time, but then he freaked out, so we left. So someday.
So, it was early evening, late afternoon, you're back at the hotel. Did you manage to fit anything else in this evening?
So what we did was we ran and did some shopping at kind of the general store there at the boardwalk. Just I wanted to get a few things. And then our original plan was a 7:45 reservation at the cake bake shop.
Oh,
In the
that's right.
morning, we canceled it. And we decided because my husband said if they're going to put gold glitter in my food like they did my ice cream earlier, because we had stopped there. I forgot to mention we did make a quick stop one night at Cake Bake Shop to get a piece of cake and ice cream, and they put gold in everything, which is beautiful. He said, I don't want to eat at a place that puts gold in my food. And I told him you could probably tell them not to do it, but he's just like, I think it's too late. And I agreed. It was the timing of it. So we'll try again another time. So we pivoted, and my son said, I want to ride the Skyliner. We haven't got to ride the Skyliner. So what we did was it had started raining. So this is around 5 o'clock. We'd taken a break. It's around 5 o'clock. We love the Port Orleans resorts, so French Quarter and Riverside. And of course, you can get the beignets at French Quarter. So he said, let's ride the Skyliner and then figure out how to get some beignets for dinner. So our plan was to go to French Quarter, eat at the food court, and get some beignets. So it was raining pretty good. So we got a minivan to the French Quarter, and so it picked us up about 5:10, and we were just in 10 minutes at the food court, which was good because with the rain, everybody was then coming to be in to have a break for dinner too. So it was very busy. So we ate at the food court and had beignets at French Quarter. Then we did the gift shop there because I love all their merchandise too. And then our plan was to take a minivan to Riviera so that we could then get on the Skyliner and ride it to back to the Epcot stop. So the thing I'll mention about if you go into French Quarter's gift shop, they have a little trivia at the cashier stand that you can do. If you answer all the trivia questions, they will give you a button that's for French Quarter that has Ray, the firefly from Princess and the Frog on it. That's really cool. So if you do that, you can do that. So he got that. So he's really excited about that. So we then around 6:30 took the minivan to Riviera, went from Riviera on the Skyliner to Epcot and then walked back, and it had stopped raining, thankfully. So we were just lucky in our timing, and then got back to the room and started the process of packing it all up so that we could get on our ride to the airport. Was picking us up the next day at 9 o'clock in the morning. So
And did
we
you
did
make
our
use of the
goofy
washer and dryer that night?
we used the washer and dryer a ton the whole trip. My son finished up finding Goofy so he could get his little reward and finish the stickers on his button, and it was great. It was
Mhm.
fantastic. So, yeah,
And okay, so Thursday, July 24th, departure day. Did everything go as planned?
it did. So, we had private transportation, picked us up at 9, took us right to the airport. All of our flights were on time. We were back home by 6 o'clock that evening with no issues. So, it was great.
Okay. So overall, sounds like a really good trip.
It was such a good trip.
Yeah. Yeah. And you did a lot of things to make it easier, including Premier Pass during the heat of this time of year.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely would do Premier Pass for Magic Kingdom again.
Mhm.
I that was it really was amazing just with how it made us more efficient. I'm not sure I would do it anywhere else. It would really have to be a peak time because the expense versus the value probably wasn't there for anything but Magic Kingdom for us.
Yeah, you did say you liked it at Epcot, but I have a feeling it was because Epcot's so big. So it
Yes.
allowed you to kind of stay in some
Mhm.
pockets.
It was hot that day, super hot, and it would just allowed us to stay in air conditioning in those areas. So that was a benefit, but I don't know if it was cost benefit analysis would have weighed out totally.
Makes sense. All right. Is there anything else about your trip to share before you wrap it up?
I don't think so. I think that was everything.
All
It was a
right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to share, Sarah.
It's so good to talk to you, Shannon. Thank you for letting me share.
I hope you enjoyed my chats with Sarah. We did keep talking on the after chat that is for patrons only. I wanted to ask her about her experiences with cruising, future trip plans, Disneyland, these kind of things. So I was happy to do that for a little while on the after chat, which is up in both video and audio form. If you're a patron, be sure to check it out there. If you're not a patron, feel free to join us. It is my favorite place on the internet. I think that'll wrap up this episode of WDW Prep to Go. For more information, please check the show notes in your podcast app or head to the website, wdwprepschool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 473. Until next time, I'll see you on the site.